end of time.
O'clock.
Well, hey everyone. Happy Wednesday. Time once again for the main show.
Yep.
So we see that it is Murder Hornet's birthday today. And
I've been
although
talking shit all day, I don't have time to talk to that
although
dude.
he would like some of Tom's booty hole
Ain't that something?
for his birthday,
Ain't that something?
that's like, I can't even have his booty
I
hole
told him to
on
go
my
to Mexico,
birthday.
man. I told him to go to Mexico, go to his favorite brothel and pick one out.
He's gonna make you pick
Yeah.
one, like he usually does. He's making Tom pick.
That's fucking funny.
But yeah, happy birthday, seriously.
Yeah.
But
Everybody, a lot of people showed up early. They were just piling in on such a grim fucking subject as
I'm telling you, man, it's messed up, but
murder
it's
of
like
Adam Walsh.
everybody's into the fucking true crime topics.
Yeah.
Well, and I kind of am too, and I have to admit that I have my whole life I've had like a really gruesome fascination with this case because I was 9 years old when this happened, and I vividly remember this shit being all over the news. And you know, the outcome of it, you know, after he was abducted and everything like that, and then what ended up happening just horrified the shit out of me. I was 9 years old. I was only 3 years older than him, than Adam was at the time. And I remember like the huge cultural impact that this had. I'm not going to say that this was the one case that kind of made the whole stranger danger, you know, concept explode across the United States. But I will say that this was definitely some kind of catalyst. Because, you know, obviously, like, child abductions and murders and stuff had happened previously, you know, in the 60s and 70s and whatnot. But it seemed like this one was the first one that was, like, so nationally. It was big fucking news. Like, all over the country was on the news every single day. His face was on the news everywhere. And it just seemed like everybody got really invested because he was missing for a couple of weeks, like 16 days or something like that. And it kind of, like, really honed in on the whole stranger abduction thing, for better or for worse. I do kind of feel like, and we'll kind of discuss this toward the end, but you know, it even nowadays, and I mean, crime was actually much worse back then than it is now, even though people were a lot more laissez-faire about it, I guess. But after this, there was like a huge uptick. Like, people were freaking out about stranger abductions, which are still, you know, they still happen, and it's obviously really tragic, but they are vanishingly rare. I saw several different, you know, statistics and stuff like that. You know, anywhere from like 95 to 99% of abductions are family members or friends of the family. It's very, very rare for someone to be abducted by a stranger, just like it's very, very rare to be murdered by a stranger. Yeah. It does happen, and it's horrible, but, you know, we've talked about lots of cases like that. But I'm just saying that statistically, it's very unusual, and it's still very unusual, and honestly, it's less usual now than it was back then, even though they were kind of freewheeling about it and didn't really worry about it. But I will say that this case was really instrumental culturally, because a lot of the, you know, child abduction kind of laws, like the, you know, National Institute for Missing Persons, like missing children and stuff like that, all the stuff that we know, like the Code Adam stuff, like in stores, you know, like in big box stores and stuff, that came from this case. Like they didn't have that before this. So it was kind of a big deal. And like I said, I remember, I was a kid, but I remember how big of a fucking deal this was, you know?
Yeah.
So
it's funny, you know, this stuff happens, and you want to be smart when you're in the United States or any country, really. But I was just on YouTube. I follow a British family that's immigrated to the United States, and when they moved here, they've lived here for years now. They do little videos, and I can't remember the channel. The name of the channel is. They said that if you watch the news here and you watch international news, you would think that if you go to America, you just get shot up by dudes in machine guns constantly, and fucking it's nothing but ultra violence wherever you go. It's not really. It's centralized in a couple different places, but It's actually pretty safe in most places in the United States.
Well, and it's weird because
It's very rare that
well,
you
the
have-
thing about it is, I mean, crime sells. I'm kind of
Clicks.
I'm a bad culprit for that too because I love true crime shit. But if you consume true crime all the time, which, like I said, they're going to put it out there for you because people watch it because it's interesting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you get kind of a skewed perspective on how common it is. Even though, like I said, the United States does have a significantly higher crime rate than other countries. But I will say that crime, since I believe the largest spike was in 1990, 1991, since then it has fallen precipitously. And if you see like long-term graphs of the stuff, it's like, you know, in the past couple years, there's been like a tiny, tiny uptick. Like this big, but it's like before it was like way the fuck up here, like at the late 80s, early 90s.
And I think you reflexively said America has a higher crime rate. That's not true. Brazil is much higher than the United States.
And the
gun violence is much higher in Brazil.
The last statistics I looked at from last year, we're 10th or 11th, somewhere around there.
Okay.
Brazil was actually not in the top 10 this time around. I think they might have been. I think Uruguay was above us.
Yeah,
was one above us. I can't remember like the top one was like a weird one that I think it was Trinidad and Tobago or somewhere like that.
Here's another
St.
thing.
Kitts. No, I think it was St. Kitts.
Those lists are all based upon data. Data has to be given to a government that approves the data and releases it. A lot of governments will not give you their true crime statistics. They're going to fudge those numbers to make themselves look better. There are some fucking countries that are extremely violent. Where I remember for a while, like Honduras was fucking through the roof, and I don't know what was going on in Honduras. I think that was mostly late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
Honduras was just fucking deadly.
I think there, like I said, I think there were a couple of South American and Central American countries above us. But we were like 12th, I think. Like the last one I looked at.
And a lot of these countries are small countries, and they have fucking crime rates. But the thing is,
they do it like per 100,000 people.
But it would look the same way if you looked in the United States. It's going to be centered around big cities, certain big cities, and that's where statistically most of it's happening. Out in the middle of nowhere, middle America, nah, not really. But when it comes to weird crimes, crime is a lot like warfare, and warfare is always dictated by geography. Crime is dictated by geography. If you have wide open spaces, you can't police it, not effectively. So in those wide open spaces, you're going to have some weird crimes happen there every now and then. In high urban, high density populations, you're going to have one kind of crime. It's going to be a lot of like robbery, shooting, that kind of shit, drive-bys, whatever. But out in the middle of nowhere, you're going to have another kind of crime. It's going to be more rare, but it might be more bizarre. Like somebody that's abducting people and keeping them in their houses. Because there's privacy out there. But it's less common. You know, you're going to have serial killers and shit. Because they have the freedom to move.
Yeah.
And crime is just like warfare. It is dictated by terrain. You know, things that serial killers do. Like abducting people, sexually assaulting them, and murdering them. You have to have a big space to do that in. It's not safe to do that in a city. You'll have murders there, but it won't be that kind of murder.
Well, I think one reason, too, that the Adam Walsh case made such a cultural impact was because it happened... It was completely random, as far as they know. It happened in the middle of the day in a crowded shopping mall, like in a very small 10 to 15 minute window. And it just seemed to be... So I kind of feel like that's what scared people about it, was that it seemed like it could happen to anybody. You know what I mean? Even though statistically it's very rare. So I could understand like why people flipped out about it. I flipped out about it, but like, I was only 9, but that's kind of the thing. And it's just kind of like, I feel like after this happened, people kind of twigged on to the fact it's like, holy shit, this could happen. Like just some random motherfucker could be like wandering by and just snatch your kid. But then see, I think that people like overreacted, like at least statistically, but I can understand what, I mean, that's your kid, you know, so I can understand why people overreact.
Bryce is talking about crime in New Zealand. Says that a lot of it goes unreported, especially since...
Well, that might be the case here as well. I'm sure like the crime rates are probably always higher than what is reported.
Yeah, I personally know. Jen and I both know a girl who was sexually assaulted when she was young by a bunch of dudes who basically abducted her in a car. She never reported any of it because it was just it'd be too much of a trouble. Too much.
Not, I mean, yeah, not to be like, if anything like that had ever happened to me, I probably would not have reported it either.
They put that girl through the ringer and say, "Well, why you got in the car with him? You know what I mean? You were smoking weed with him."
Because that's kind of shitty. I think it's better than it used to be.
Right.
But generally, particularly with cases of sexual assault, it's just kind of like, well, they're gonna try and make you look like a hoe, and they're gonna like, why did you do this? Why did you do that? They're gonna victim blame.
Right.
And so it's like, and I don't blame a lot of women for like, fuck that, I don't want to go through all that again.
Because they would just run you through the ringer for months and months and months.
Right. And it's like, it wouldn't be worth it. Like, I get, but like, I get the other side of it too, especially if it was like a stranger. Sexual assault.
Yeah.
You don't want them to do that to another person, so you want to try and like help out other people. But I can totally understand why somebody would not report it. I can't say that if anything like that had ever happened to me that I would have reported it. It would depend on the situation, I guess.
Civilians have a weird way of looking at things. They think criminals are stupid and that this is just some system and they make some laws and things happen. No. Criminals are interactive, and it's the same as I have a military and law enforcement type background. And not everything I did, kind of like Axel Foley, not everything I did was on the up and up. Okay, no, criminals know what the laws are. Whatever laws you give them, they're gonna try to skirt them. Okay, and like I said, guys will pick up girls knowing, well, we'll do something shady like do drugs together, and then after that, we can all have our way with her because she can't go to the cops after that.
Yeah.
They know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, a lot of times they do.
They're much smarter than you think they are, and they just see you as weak. They see compassion as weakness. And
I think a lot of people do, which is really sad.
To a certain extent, I agree.
But that's really sad, Tom. That's a sad way to live your life.
Yeah, the thing is, though, is that when you're dealing with evil, all right?
Well, yeah, that's a different case.
You
but
can't
I'm just
have
saying.
compassion for evil because they're gaming the system.
Yeah, I get it.
That's what they do. So harsh systems tend to do better. And things that are very clear cut. You do this, this is what we do to you. We do this, this is what we're going to do to you. And punishments have to be severe. Because people are... I'm an animal trainer. I'm an ex-animal trainer too. There's no difference between training an animal and training a human. It's the same thing. Just that animals are nonverbal. They're body language. Here's the thing. I don't want to upset you people. Animals are more honest than people. And a lot more trustworthy. They're better than people in many ways.
Well, a lot of people like animals better than people.
They're very pure. They're pure and innocent.
I'm probably among those, but I like animals better than people
they're
too.
Very pure and
generally.
innocent. Even though they can deceive and they try to deceive you, they're like children. You can't hold them responsible. They're just doing what they do. Humans know better, and they still violate. Okay.
Well, like I said, I think that's what makes me sad. It's just that people constantly disappoint me. People are just constantly disappointing to me.
But not all people are bad.
No. I no, and I don't think that at all. I think most people are
pretty good.
Most people are okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or at least are inoffensive.
Most people are about reciprocation. I'm good to you, you're good to me.
Yeah, and the vast majority of people are like that, I have found.
Which is animal behavior.
Yeah, most people are fine. Most people would not fuck you over. Like, they wouldn't do shit like... But the reason that people are fascinated by weird crimes and serial killers and stuff like that is because it's so out of the norm. Most people would not do that.
Got a super chat from Bryce.
Thank you very much, Bryce.
What do you say?
I haven't tuned in for a while because of work and study. Love the show, as always. Thank you very much.
You've been with us for a long time.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. So yeah. I'm just saying that I'm all for... I understand why people had an emotional reaction to the Adam Walsh abduction and murder, because it's fucking scary. It's fucking scary that you're a mom and you have a kid and you've done something that you've done a million times before. It's like, yeah, play some video games with those other boys, and then 10 minutes later you come back, the kid's gone, and then the kid ends up murdered. You know what I mean? It's like, it doesn't happen all that often, but I can understand why everybody fucking freaked out about it. I freaked out about it because I was a little kid. Because people, I think it really brought home to them that this could literally happen anywhere. It's the middle of fucking day. It was like noon or something. Like, and the mall was like crowded. It was like, it had a full parking lot. There was people in the store, shit like that. So they're like, if it could happen there, it could happen anywhere. So I get the emotional reaction. But like I said, you have to kind of like back off and be like, well, statistically, how likely is that to happen to you?
Right.
I'm just saying that you have to watch your ass for sure, because you never know, like that person next to you at the gas pump or whatever, that could be a serial killer. You don't know, but you can't live your entire life in fear. You do have to watch your ass.
You cannot give off an aura or waves of fear or weakness, because the predators in life pick up on that, and you're targeted because of that. Definitely. Women who were assaulted tend to be assaulted again and again because they're giving off a certain vibe that attracts them.
Well, like I said, don't sound like you're victim blaming.
No, it's just that they can read it.
Yeah.
They can read the body language. They can read the signals. Do not be fearful. Be, in other words, watch your ass, but you cannot look like a victim. You can't act
Walk
like a
around
victim.
like you're a crazy person.
Yeah, you're
or
more,
the Wicked Witch of the West.
That you can retaliate. You have to fucking give off an aura of fucking strength. That you might be able to kill me, but you'll pay for it. You might be able to attack me, but you will pay for it. It won't be for free, and that will tend to dissuade a lot of that. Predators are looking for the low-hanging fruit, the easiest ones to go for. You know, if there's any resistance, they go, I'll move to an easier one.
I mean, yeah. I mean, we had a guy. This is so weird to talk about. I don't know if they do this anymore, but when I was in junior high, I think I was 7th or 8th grade, we had a police officer come, and we had we all had to go to the gym. I think it was just girls, actually. We all had to go to the gym, and we had a police officer who I remember his nickname was Hop. I don't know if that was because his last name was Hopper, or I don't remember now, but I remember that was his name. And he did like a rape prevention seminar, which is like so weird to think. I don't know if they still do this nowadays, but when I was in junior high, they did this. And so he was telling all of these 12, 13, 14-year-old girls, like all these different ways. It's like, have your keys between your thing, and like stick them in his eyeball, or like stick them in his fucking neck, or like in his ear, or whatever, like stick a pencil in his ear, like all of these kind of. And then he told us like all these horror stories that had happened, because I grew up in Daytona Beach, Florida, and he told us these horror stories, which I had actually heard about. Like one girl got abducted and murdered, and the dude cut her nipples off. Damn. And like left her like hanging like in this park, like that everybody.
He left her alive, though, huh?
No, she was dead when they found her, but he cut off her nipples while she was still alive.
Yeah.
And he was like trying to scare us into, stranger danger. Like I said, it was very, and this was 80s, so at the height of the stranger danger thing. But yeah, he was telling us all the shit. He's like, anything you can do, just like throw up all over yourself, anything like that will make him like
which is
not.
a polite way of saying shit your pants.
Or yeah, he said that too. He's like, barf on yourself, shit on yourself. Like he did say he didn't use that word, but he did say that.
Anything to make you look not hot.
Right.
Fucking, and it'll turn him off.
Yeah.
That actually happens in fucking.
Hey, girl, you got to do what you got to do, man.
You grab some of these insects or beetles, and they fucking shit on themselves and stink on themselves. So the predator goes, ugh.
Yeah, well, that's what he said.
Yeah,
he's like, just anything to get him to let go of you.
Yeah.
It's like if you can't fucking stab the motherfucker in the eyes or whatever, and then just barf on yourself or shit on yourself or something. Like, get him to let go of you and then run like fucking hell.
Yeah.
Erica says, they tell you to yell fire as a man is attacking you in public. Yeah, it's like, don't yell rape because no one will care. Like, but if you yell fire, everybody wants to come look at it.
Well,
and he told us
will run away.
He told us that too. Yeah. He told us that too. Yell fire because everybody's like, ooh, fire where? Yeah. They'll come and want to watch it. If you just like yell help or rape or whatever,
they're like,
that's I don't want to get involved in that. Nope.
Yeah.
But if
don't get in trouble.
That was another thing that he told us specifically. Please yell fire. Don't yell help. But which is probably good advice even nowadays.
Well, the world's also changed a little bit. Cameras.
It has. I mean, like I said,
cameras everywhere. People got cell phones.
And I think
one of the best weapons is a damn camera.
Yeah, and I think too that because stranger abductions have also, like all other violent crimes, have also dropped precipitously. And I think a lot of it is because, one, people are more aware nowadays, obviously, of like these fucking psychos out there because of all the true crime that we watch. But also, everybody's got cell phones. There's cameras everywhere. There's shit like that's harder to get away with.
Yeah.
People, you have to think like back in the 70s and 80s, which I know like a lot of people liked that, but it's like kids were free range. You didn't really.
Up that way.
That's what I mean. It's just kind of like, just go out on your bike. And just come back before it's dark. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like your parents didn't know where you were all day long, like in summertime.
We would get in trouble too, man.
Well, yeah, I mean
that was when I was in California, also California and Mississippi. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we all did.
Flood control system down the fucking L.A. River. And
Damn, my brother used to like set the woods on fire and all
yeah,
kind
set
of
the
crap.
woods on fire with gasoline.
We used to do all kind of shit.
It's fun though.
But
I think kids still do grow up that way. It's just that it's more in the rural areas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing about it, I think that the fact that as many kids don't grow up that way is probably one of the reasons, because there was bad shit going on back then.
Yeah.
You know, predators will absolutely take advantage of the situation. This case, though, I kind of feel like this is so weird. We gotta like talk about this because the Adam Walsh case, technically, it's considered solved. But honestly, I'm really not sure about that. You know what I'm saying? I'm really not sure about that. But we'll get into it. So before we get too much into it, I brought this up on Monday night's show, the movie review about Blood Diamond. But I always like to bring stuff up on the main show. I wanted to give a big shout out to our newest patron, whose name is Julie. So thank you very much, Julie. She's joined our Patreon.
Yeah, Jen told me, yeah.
And also, I wanted to give another thank you to our second newest patron, whose name is Kelly, who not only joined our Patreon a week or two back, but also gave us a very generous PayPal donation over the weekend. Yeah. And we really, really do appreciate that a lot. Yeah. And I was just I was like fucking floored when I saw that. So thank you.
That's only happened a few times where we
very, very much. That's like really, really nice of you. It does help a lot.
Yeah, it helps out a lot. Me and Jen have other sources of income. We do the show mostly for fun, but getting rewards like that from you guys means a lot from us. And fucking, we kind of like double down. We're like, okay, yeah, our show is doing pretty good.
Well, it makes me feel like, because I do put a lot of work into this show in particular. Like I did like 2 or 3 days of research on this. Like just
yeah, I mostly just drink and talk shit. You know?
Yeah, well, yeah, because he doesn't usually know about the shit. So what Tom will do is he will just drink and he'll just try to predict. And I'm just like, would you stop?
Well, that's the way the show was originally envisioned anyway. I was kind of like a straight man to every man. I'm the audience reacting to it. You know?
Yeah. I mean, you know, so there's that. So then he'll like but you know, this is a good one because like I said, you kind of sort of remembered the details of this. You were alive when this happened, just like I was. And this was like a big deal. Like I remember this being a fucking big deal at the time. It was on the news every fucking day. And like I said, I was a kid, so it made a big impact. And, you know, spoiler alert, it also involves a beheading, which I've also has always like really freaked me out a lot. So it's like I think that was why it really caught my attention. I was like, holy shit. Like I was horrified by the shit. I probably had nightmares about it. Because like I said, I was only 3 years older than this kid when he got fucking kidnapped. So yeah, so do you have anything else you need to get into before?
Yeah, I had an occurrence today.
You had an occurrence?
Car's fucking running great. My new fucking Mercury V8's fucking doing good. Got my new suspension in and everything. I masked off a couple of the little... I got tinted windows. They're black, front and rear. And in between there's a black stripe of metal right there in the pillars, what's called. I masked that off and sprayed it in a beautiful matte black. I was going, man,
he was so proud of himself.
Great as fuck. I'm backing the car up to get it in the shade, come out of the car, fucking shut the car door, and put my hand right in the fucking paint.
He came in and told me that.
Right in the fucking paint. And I was just like...
And I said,
man.
How does it feel to be an idiot like me? Because that sounds like some dumb shit that I would have done.
Shut the door from the outside, put my hand in the fucking paint.
I do shit like that all the time.
Yeah.
Don't feel bad.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, why?
But now I'm enjoying being back in the Panther platform, fucking, which is Mercury Grand Marquis, Crown Vic, Ford Crown Vic, and
fabulous,
Lincoln
man.
Town cars.
We've been driving it all over the place.
Having fun with that car.
We've been driving it all over the place.
It's a 99 with only 100,000 miles on it. It's not even broke in. Those cars can get 400,000 miles.
Driving all over the place.
Yeah.
We were just because I mean the last couple of days we had to like run a bunch of errands and stuff like that.
Big American V8, and it turns out we're getting 17 miles to a gallon city, which that's not
average.
bad for a V8.
Yeah, not bad.
You can get about 26, 27 on the highway.
Yeah. Like I said, we've been driving around, like we've been doing a lot of errands the last couple of days. I finally got all of my shit changed to my new last name. So I got my.
Jenny is now a Ross.
I am now officially a Ross.
Yeah.
I got my new Social Security card. I got
Yep.
my driver's license changed. I had to go to the bank and wait for a bajillion years
Yep.
to get them to give me a new. Well, they haven't actually given me the new card, but they changed the name on my account. You know, so and I got all the my name changed on all the credit cards and stuff like that. I'm still just waiting for them to come in the mail, but yeah. So I had to do all of that yesterday too. Wow, it's a pain. And I'm sure that there's probably shit that I'm forgetting, but it's weird. Now it's like I've had that other last name for such a long time that it's like I still kept it as like a middle name because I still use that as my writer name.
Yeah,
but,
she wrote a lot of books under Jenny Ashford.
So I
Jeff,
wanted to keep it in there somewhere. So I said I'll just keep it as a middle name, which is what I did with my birth name. Like
her name is now Jenny Ashford Ross.
Yeah.
Sounds like something from the fucking royal family. Sounds like some Scottish clan fucking name. You know.
That's
fucking,
right, bitch. I need a crown or something.
Yeah. Some
Yeah.
Scottish Irish shit.
But yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like it's just funny. I got a message from
Jennifer Ashford Ross.
one of the credit card companies, and it was like, "Dear Mrs. Ross," and I was just like, "Oh, that's like really weird." And it's really funny because my mom sent me a thing the other day, and it said Jennifer Ross on it, and you were like, "Who the fuck is that?" Oh, that's you. That's right.
Yeah.
He forgot.
I forget about it.
He forgot. I kind of forget too, even though it's my name. It's like I said, it's dudes don't have to go through any of that. They just keep the same name their whole life. But
She didn't have to do it. She wanted to do it.
yeah,
It is a cool name.
well, like I said,
That is a very cool name.
I said.
Yeah.
I kind of went back and forth on it. And I did this the first time I got married too. The only reason I changed it, well, I don't want to say the only reason, but the main reason I changed it the first time because I didn't really like my birth name. Like my maiden name.
Yeah.
Which is Mitchell. And I was just kind of like,
That's a cool name too. Though.
I'm just like, I was ambivalent about it. So I was like,
Mitchell.
well,
Yeah.
So when I married my first husband, whose last name was Ashford, I was like, oh, that's kind of like a cooler last name. So I decided I would change it to that. And then I said, man, that is a huge pain in the ass, like changing. It didn't cost as much as I thought it would. It was just like $31 to change the driver's license, but everything else was free, thankfully.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of like, so I said, well, I'm never going to do that shit again unless, like, after we got together, I'm like, unless this bitch ever, like, actually marries me, then I'll change it. So he did. So I was like, okay, well, I have to make good on that promise. I never told you that, but it's like I was thinking about that. That it's like, well, I'll change it if he does it, because I didn't think you ever would. I didn't think you ever would. But it's like, but you did. So I was like, okay, well, I got to make good. I promised to myself.
It did make sense not to get married.
I did promise myself that I would do it.
It did make sense not to get married.
Yeah.
You know.
So.
We've been together so long.
I know, right?
But
At the bank yesterday, he was saying 20 years. I'm like, it hasn't been quite that long. I haven't even known you that long.
It sounds a lot better when I say that, though.
It does, yeah.
It's been about more like 16.
No.
15.
Well, okay.
12. 13.
We got to. Well, okay. I've known you.
We've known each other
since 2009. I think I met you in 2009.
Yeah, or
we got
2008, maybe.
We got together in summer of 2011.
Yeah.
I remember that.
You probably first
So
saw
13 years.
You probably first saw me in 2008 when I moved here.
I probably did, yeah. But I don't think I met you until 2009 because I used to see you around. I just didn't know you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you like were around all the time. But yeah. So it's just weird. It's weird to think that I have a different last name now. And I'm going to forget, but.
Yeah, it's funny because like her ex-husband wanted her to drop his name. But she'd written books under that name.
And I'd had that last name for like, because I was married to my first husband for 14 fucking years, man.
Right.
And I was like, but eat a dick.
Just leave it. Yeah, just make it a middle name. I think that sounds good. Jenny Ashford Ross. That's good.
Yeah. Well, I just kept it as a middle name because,
Yeah.
you know, I didn't want to offend anybody or nothing like that. But I was just kind of like, yeah, but I've written a bunch of books under that name and I'm kind of used to that name. So I kind of want to keep it in there, but it's not really my official last name. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You had a Welsh name. That might be English, though.
That's an English last name.
Yeah. He was from Wales, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The most common, you know what? You want it's funny? The most common Welsh last name is actually Jones.
Is it?
It is, yeah. Everybody's last name is Jones. That's like by far the most common last name. All right, so are we gonna start getting into the case?
Go ahead, get to the case.
All right, so let's get into this.
That was the preamble.
That was the preamble, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get into this. So okay, for those of you who were not around at this time, this was the summer of 1981. July 27th, to be exact. So Adam Walsh was 6 years old at this point. I believe it was a Monday. And, you know, obviously it's summer, so he's off school. So he's going with his mom, whose name is Reve. And they're going on a whole bunch of errands. Like, she had to, like, stop and pay his tuition at his school and all this other kind of stuff. And she was going to go to her gym class, like, later in the day or whatever. But she decided that she was going to take him to... They lived in Hollywood, Florida, which is in South Florida, not too far from Miami, if you don't know. And she's like, we're going to go to the Hollywood Mall, which is called the Hollywood Hills Plaza nowadays. It's still there. And she wanted to buy this lamp. Like, she really wanted this lamp. It was like a brass barrel type lamp. And she had been wanting it for a really long time, and it was really expensive. And then she saw an ad for it in Good Housekeeping that said they had it at Sears, like, for half the price of, you know, it had been before. She's like, I'm going to go get that fucking lamp, right? So she goes on this particular day to Sears, and she's going to get this fucking lamp. So they go to the Sears, and they enter through the north entrance of the store. Now, they go in the store, and Adam, like I said, who is 6 years old, he sees in the toy department, there's like a kiosk at the end, because like I've seen pictures of it. The big thing in 1981, of course, was the Atari 2600, right? Everybody wanted it. Everybody wanted it.
I ended up with the Odyssey too.
I got that also. I feel your pain.
Didn't have enough games.
It was pretty good. It was
fun,
though.
but it didn't have enough games.
It was all right though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had the same thing. I never did get an Atari. I played it at my cousin's house.
Ended up with KC Munchkin on that bitch.
Yeah, right. That's what I had to.
Fake Pac-Man.
Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah, I had that also. We had the Odyssey instead of the Atari. We never got an Atari.
It had a better joystick, but the games weren't that good.
Yeah, the games were okay. They just didn't have that many.
Yeah, the graphics were a little bit better than
they were. I thought
stuff, but they just magnified.
But all the good iconic games were Atari games.
Yeah, Atari.
And like I said, my cousins had it. But whenever
ColecoVision came out and just blew all that shit away.
Yeah, I remember that. Although we never had that either.
Yeah, that was a good.
But so they had the store had a kiosk of the Atari 2600, and you could play it. You know what I mean? So a lot of kids that maybe couldn't afford one or whatever, they were trying to get people to buy it. So it's like kids would go there during the day and they would play the games. So she goes in the store with Adam, and he sees, you know, the Atari 2600 thing, and he's like, please, can I go, you know, play the video games? Because there was a couple of other boys that were older than him, you know what I mean, that were more like, you know, 9, 10, 11, 12 age. And they were over there playing, and he's like, please, can I go over there and play? She's like, but I'm only going to be a couple of minutes. It's like, I'm just going to go over to the housewares and get this lamp, and then we're going home. But he's just like, oh, please. And she's like, okay, fine. Go over there. Because there was like 3 or 4 other kids over there playing the games already. So she didn't really think that much about it. And like I said, this is 1981. You know, people would tell their kids, they'd give them some quarters and be like, hey, go to the arcade. I'm going to go shopping or whatever. You know what I mean? And then they'd pick you up later. It wasn't that big of a deal. So she's like, I'm only going to be a few minutes. I'm only going to be a few aisles away. So yeah, go over there if there was already kids over there. So they did that. So she goes over to the lighting or the housewares department or whatever and asks about the lamp. And the salesperson is just kind of like, well, let me check. We don't have any in stock. So it's like, I'm going to go check in the back. And she goes and checks in the back, and they didn't have any. So Reve is like, well, that's a bummer. And so she leaves her name and phone number. Now, she said, according to her, she was only doing this for like 10 minutes, right? 10 minutes. At this point, it's about 12:15 p.m. Now, the lamp department, like where the lighting department was only about 75 to 100 feet from the toy department. Like, you couldn't see it. It wasn't in the direct line of sight, but it was only like a few aisles over. It wasn't like she wandered into a different store or nothing. So she went back. So 10 minutes later, they didn't have the lamp, so she left her name and everything. And then she goes back to the toy department where the video games were, and she notices that all of the boys, including Adam, are gone. Now, at first, she doesn't panic. I mean, I guess you kind of would at first, but she was just kind of like, well, there's got to be an explanation. He's got to be around here somewhere. So she goes to the store manager and asks, hey, did you see, like, there was a bunch of kids here playing games? Now, the manager says, oh, well, there were these kids here, and there was, like, a fight over, they were fighting over whose turn it was to play, because only one kid could play at a time, right? So they were fighting over it, and the security guard at the store, who was a 17-year-old girl, had apparently kicked all the kids out because they were causing trouble. Because I guess the security guard came up to the older kids and was like, hey, are your parents in the store? And they said no, because I'm assuming that they had just ridden their bikes there or whatever. And so she's like, well, you guys need to get the fuck out of here. And what the story I heard was that she told a couple of them, because I think it was 4 kids, like 2 black kids and 2 white kids. And she's like, well, you guys they were fighting. So she's like, well, you guys need to go out that entrance, and you guys need to, because she didn't want the fight to continue. Right. You know what I mean? So she's telling them to go out different entrances. So she kicked them out the store. Now, what they think happened, nobody's entirely sure, because like I said, there were no cameras and nobody saw anything. What they later thought happened was that since Adam was with them and was really shy and probably wouldn't have spoken up or thought he was going to get in trouble, like when the security guard came and was like, hey, are your parents here? They'd be like, no. And she's like, all right, get the fuck out of the store, you kids. And he probably would have just left with the other kids or got kicked out of the store because that's what the security guard told him to do, and would have been like too scared to like speak up. You know what I mean? And they think that the entrance that he went out of was not the same entrance that he came in, so it was one that he wasn't familiar with. That's what they're assuming anyway. Like I said, nobody knows for sure, but that's what they thought. So they thought that he might have gone out the west entrance when they came in the north entrance, and he had never come in that way, but so he wasn't familiar. So they think that what happened was that he got outside the store. The other boys, who obviously didn't know him, subsequently were like, okay, well, we don't know this kid, so whatever. And then they just took off and then left him alone outside the store. That's what they think happened. So because Reve couldn't find Adam in the toy department where she had left him, obviously, she goes to the customer service and asks them to page him, like, over the store. Now, I think there was kind of a bit of a tussle because the woman that works at the customer service said, well, we're only allowed to page somebody to come to the customer service department. Because Reve was saying, I want him to come to the toy department because he knows where that is. You know what I mean? But the employee was like, no, we can only page them. Like, that's the rules. Like, they have to come to the customer service department. And Reve's like, what the fuck? She's like, he doesn't know where he didn't know what customer service. He's 6. You know what I mean? It's like, so can you please? And she's like, well, no, we have to do it that way. So she's like, okay, fine. So they paged him to come to the customer service department. Obviously, he did not show up. So she's looking for him throughout the Sears store. And then, like, people are trying, the employees, she said later, I don't know if this is entirely the case, although it may very well be. She was like, they cared, but they didn't really seem that concerned. Because she's like, well, like I said, this is 1981. They have kids wander off all the time. And, up to this point, every single one of them had been found unharmed. They just wandered off in the store, wandered off into the mall, whatever. And it's like they just found them later and it was fine. So nobody really thought anything bad had happened or anything. Like, that was kind of, like I said, it was 1981. Like, now everybody would freak the fuck out. But back then they were just kind of, oh, he's fine. He's probably just wandered off into the mall somewhere. We'll find him. You know what I mean? It wasn't a big deal. So she, coincidentally, happened to run into her mother-in-law, whose name was Jean. Now, her mother-in-law just happened to be at the mall that day. She was, like, shopping for plants or some shit like that, like in the garden department. And she's like, well, is Adam with you? And she's like, no, what the hell's going on? And she's like, well, I can't find him. You know what I mean? So they kind of searched everywhere. Now, so all the other Sears employees were like, well, maybe he just wandered off into the mall. And, she's like, well, he wouldn't do that. He was, like, real shy. He was kind of the kid that was just kind of, like, stuck to his mom like glue. Like, so he wouldn't have, he was real timid. He wasn't a kid that would have just, like, wandered off on his own. You know what I mean? Some kids will, some kids won't. And she's like, he's just not like that. He wouldn't do that. Because some of the employees were like, well, maybe he just started walking home, or maybe he went out to the car, or something like that. I mean, they were just trying to help. I get it. But, she's like, he wouldn't have done that. So she was kind of flipping out. So she's like, I don't think he's anywhere else in the mall, but I don't know. He's not in the store, clearly. So they decided to search the whole mall. They very quickly searched the whole mall, and obviously they did not find him. So at this point, Reve decides, well, okay, well, I'm going to call the police. So she calls the police at 1:55 p.m. Like I said, a lot of people criticized because she realized that he was gone at 12:15 and then didn't call the police until 1:55. But like I said, it was 1981. You know, she had every expectation, as did everyone else that worked in the store, that they were going to find him completely fine because, you know, you just didn't think about this kind of shit happening. I will note here, too, that the police department was literally right across the street from the mall. Literally. Like, I have seen the old photos of, like, where the mall is still there. And the police department is, like, right there. It was, like, right adjacent. So, yeah. Now, as I mentioned, 1981. So the cops come. She's like, they didn't seem super concerned. You know, they're like, oh, it's fine. We'll find him. And shit like that. Now, I will note that after it became clear that Adam was missing, Sears, or their representatives, made a statement to police in which they claimed that Reve had actually left Adam unattended for 90 minutes, not 10 minutes, as she claimed. I have to say, I find this kind of hard to believe. I think it was just a case of Sears trying to cover their own ass, so they didn't get sued, which didn't work because the Walshes did actually sue them later on. But or, you know, just to be a little bit more charitable, they might have conflated the 90 minutes that she searched for Adam into the time that she had left him unattended. According to her, it was 10 minutes at most. And I don't know. I don't really have any reason to doubt her. I don't think she had anything to do with his disappearance. Some people have tried to spin some conspiracy theory that maybe she had something to do with it, but I really don't think that's the case. So I think the story happened pretty much the way she said. She just wandered off for 10 minutes. She came back and he was gone. So once it was established that they didn't know where this kid was, that, you know, they went back to the house, he wasn't there, obviously. So this got massive, massive media attention. And as I mentioned, I was 9 years old at the time, and I remember that this was a big fucking deal. It was just on the news all the time. The kid's picture was on there, and we were freaking the fuck out, you know what I mean? And this was kind of the first abduction that made the national news like this, to this extent, where it was just kind of like everybody just flipping out about it and like following news about it like every day. You know what I mean? So sadly, though, this was on the news for more than 2 weeks. But as most of you probably know, this story did not have a happy ending. Quite the opposite, in fact. So on August 10th of 1981, which was 16 days after Adam disappeared from the mall, a severed head was found floating in a drainage canal by the Florida Turnpike near Vero Beach. The location where the head was found was almost 130 miles from the mall where he had disappeared. The head was actually found by two fishermen who, that was a rough day for them, I guess. They initially thought it was a doll head. Like, they were out in the boat. They'd been out in the same canal, I believe, the previous day. But they had come back to the same, and they saw this weird thing, and they were like, they thought it was a doll head, but then when they got closer, there was like, it was a real kid's head. So, you know. So obviously they call the police. The police come there, and they tried to do a, you know, search of the canal, you know, looking for the rest of the remains. But obviously they couldn't do too much because the thing was full of alligators. But you know what I mean? They didn't find anything anyway. And, you know, to this day, they have never found the rest of his body, only his head, which is, like I said, that freaked me out so bad when I was a kid. Because I had a weird thing, and I still kind of do, but I had a weird thing about, like, decapitation. Like, especially when I was a kid, it was, like, the worst thing ever that I could think of. So the fact that this had happened to a kid that was, like, only 3 years older than me, and that's all they found was his head, oh, that scared me so bad. Like, it's, like I said, I'm sure it probably gave me nightmares at the time. Here's another kind of fucked up thing. So they found the head on August 10th. But they did, you know, obviously they didn't identify it immediately. On the morning of August 11th, before the head had been identified, John and Reve Walsh were actually on national TV, because they'd kind of been going around, to all the shows and everything like that, because they were operating under the assumption, like I said, because this kind of shit, just random stranger abduction, was very rare, which is, it still is, but even back then they were just kind of like, this is unprecedented. So they were operating under the assumption that maybe somebody had kidnapped the kid for ransom. They were hoping, even though the Walshes weren't particularly rich or anything, they were just regular middle class family, but they couldn't really think of any other reason why that would have happened to them. So they had gone on TV and they were trying to like appeal to whoever had taken him. It's like, please, we'll give you whatever you want. It's just like, please just return him unharmed or whatever. So they had been doing the rounds. So they're going on the show. I think it might have been the Today Show, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. But right before they were due to go on camera, they were informed that a boy's remains had been found. Like, right? Can you imagine? I can't imagine. But the officer said, well, there's no reason yet to think that it's Adam. You know what I mean? But it's like, but just go on the show anyway. Which, I don't know if I'd be able to do that, but okay. So yeah, so it's like, well, we don't know if it's Adam, so we just found a boy's remains 130 miles away. But just go on the show anyway. And they went on the show. They did mention that remains had been found, but they were saying they were still hopeful that he was still alive. And it's just like, look, if you're holding him, please just let him go and all this other kind of stuff. Now, at this point, I believe they were offering a $5,000 reward for information, which they had, got together like from friends and stuff like that. It kind of like cobbled it together. But as time went on and as the story got bigger and bigger, like more people kind of gave money and stuff like that. So at some point, it was up to $100,000, like the reward for information, which is equivalent to over $300,000 nowadays. Now, probably only a day or two later, though, like after this TV appearance, the remains were definitively identified as Adam's. What are you doing?
No, let's see if I was never able to make him a.
He is a.
No, he is
moderator.
Murder Hornet is not a moderator. Not a moderator. Mango Badger is.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't work anymore.
No, I told you that before. I don't know why.
Hornet, I tried to make you a moderator. I can't.
I might have to go in there like later and do it.
Yeah.
I just keep forgetting. But yeah, so yeah, the head was identified as they still to this day have never found the rest of his body.
Imagine that shit.
That's what this horrified the shit out of me. I was 9
you have
when
like
this
a loved
happened.
one, like a child of yours, and they find the head and it's fucking rotten. You can't find the rest of it. I would be fucking beside myself.
I just can't imagine. I can't imagine what that must have been like.
No.
And like I said, I know.
Can imagine how fucked up that makes you feel. So, a child you created and you love this child.
He was 6.
It's only 6, and all you have is the head.
And that was their first. I mean, they had other kids later on.
Yeah.
But that he was their only child at that time. Like they had some later, but you know what I mean.
I'd fucking lose it.
Like I said, I can't imagine. Like I said, people have criticized John Walsh, which we'll get into like toward the end of the show, like for various things. But it's just kind of like, man, if you watch like the shit, like the news and stuff like that from back then, because there's clips of it up on YouTube from when he first disappeared and when they first found the remains and stuff like that. Holy crap, I just can't imagine.
I'm very much used to fucking problems that I can solve. That I'm there, I can solve with my hands, my fucking team, fucking weapons. All right. I call in airstrikes. We're going to solve some fucking problems. This is a problem you can't solve with your hands. You just find it,
Yeah, you can't. There's nothing you can do
I would feel fucking
about it.
Extremely emasculated and frustrated that you can't do anything about it. I'd feel like, man, I failed to protect him. You know what I mean?
Well, I think everybody felt like that. Like
right.
Not just any man, but any parent.
Right.
That you failed this child. Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, you didn't. It wasn't anything you did, but...
Asymmetric warfare. Predator grabbed him.
But the thing about
Total
it is
coward.
that I mean you can't really prepare that much for that kind of situation. Nobody expects that kind of situation. It was just a 1 in a billion chance.
It's the fucking evil actions of a fucking coward just a fucking
Yeah.
lower than subhuman coward.
Yeah.
And then you go, man, a child I loved so much was killed by a subhuman.
Yeah.
But
You would just never get over
But
that.
you gotta look
I
at it
would
this
never
way.
get over that.
a lot of people die of diseases. Being killed by a disease is kind of like, in a certain way, being eaten by bugs,
Yeah.
microscopic bugs. This is along those lines. You got a dude who's a zero. He's a fucking nothing. And he grabs your fucking son, has his way with your son, then fucking kills him and cuts the head off, and all you find is the fucking head.
Like I said,
Man.
I can't think of anything worse than that. I just can't.
Make me want to kill a motherfucker.
I know. Well, yeah, me
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Like everybody feels like that.
Yeah.
Like, especially if you're a parent, like I said.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't have any human children, but man, if somebody's like that, even if somebody like that did something to one of my cats, I would fucking, you know.
Yeah, me and Jen inadvertently became cat parents.
Yeah.
I never had any children of my own that I know of.
That yeah. We've discussed that before. I'm like, you
We've already
probably
been through
you
that
probably do
conversation.
have some
There are
like
probably
floating
some
around out there
but I
somewhere.
don't know if
But he
them,
doesn't know who they are.
But
I mean, maybe
no,
not.
man,
Maybe
fucking-
not. You were careful, but still.
I'm the same way about, like, you know what I mean? Fucking somebody came after fucking Pookie or mother.
Or Bam.
More Pookie, because I hand raised Pookie,
Mm-hmm.
and Pookie thinks I'm her dad.
Yeah.
You should see the shit I go through. She
is a daddy
She
girl, I
climbs
guess.
Mount Daddy every fucking night. I'm
Yep.
in bed. She's climbing up on top of me. And, hey, wake up! Every fucking night. I don't get any goddamn sleep. This cat thinks I'm its daddy,
Yeah, she's always
but I
sitting
guess
on him.
I am.
She's either sitting on him or
Yeah.
she sits or she curls up in the crook of the back of my knee and sleeps in this. So I
Yeah.
can't move.
Yeah.
Because if I move, she goes. "Brr."
Yeah, and she's totally incorrigible. She'll fucking tear shit up. I'm like, no, don't do it. And she goes, well, fuck you. You're not gonna do anything to me. You're my daddy.
But yeah.
Fucking, fucking crazy. Didn't know if you came after my fucking cat.
That's what I mean. So it's just
I
like,
feel you.
you know, I'm not
Yeah,
trying to
no
minimize, but I'm just saying that it's like, since I don't have any human children, that's the
Yeah.
closest equivalent that I
Yeah,
have. And it's just
right.
like, so if something like that happened
Yeah.
to Pookie or to Bambi or something like that, like I would flip the fuck out. So I can't
Yeah.
imagine if
I've
you had
said-
a human
I've
child.
said before that, you know, if somebody killed my cat, I'd kill you. They would be, yeah, but that's just a cat. That's not a human life. And I would like, you don't understand. Son. You don't know me.
Yeah.
You don't know.
I would also kill you.
I would kill you.
I would kill you and
Because
eat you.
I see animals. I see animals and children as being innocent, and I see adults and even children that are, 8, 9, 10 who are of reason. They have a concept. They should know better.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I come from a certain background, and fucking the military unit I came. First 327 Recon was one of the worst fucking units in Vietnam. They were the baby killers, the real baby killers. My cousin was in it, or my dad's cousin was in it, Harold Lee Ross. He showed me a whole Noxzema jar, 2 whole Noxzema jars full of ears. Just go look up fucking Tiger Force on Wikipedia. That was my unit. There's only 40 of us.
Yeah, that was kind of a big thing that they kept to use.
Yeah. It was to out-terrorize the terrorists, is what we did. Now, shit changed when I was in there, but anyway, no, if you killed my cat, I'd kill you.
Well,
I'd have to kill
see
you.
anyone that would
behoove
do
me.
that to an animal
Yeah.
would do that to a child. I
Right.
don't really see that much of a
Right,
difference
right.
because you're still like a shit
Right.
human being. Like, not even a human being.
Yeah,
You're a
and
subhuman.
I've already kind of broken that boundary. I can take life. Yeah, I ain't gonna get into that shit. I will fuck you up. If you make me mad, I will fuck you up. Because I'm a kamikaze. I've already understood that just like the fucking ways of Miyamoto Musashi, you can't take human life until you're willing to give your own life. And you can give your life with fucking equal indifference. So, no, you come for me and my people and people I care about, I will fucking kill you. That's just the way it is. Because I know I'm dead anyway. I'm going to die. Eventually. I lived longer than I thought I was going to live. Jen knows the whole story. I've made
yeah, I
everything
mean,
public.
you're still around.
I thought I would die.
Yeah,
I thought
I know a lot more about
You're
it
right.
than you guys.
Right. I went to war. The first time I went to war, I was fucking in my early 20s in the first Gulf War. Ended up in the 506, but I didn't get sent to fucking Iraq. I got sent to North Korea instead. Or I was in the Camp Greaves, first in the 506, right there on the DMZ. So I was there at first, and then did my service from the 327th and got out, had some adventures in Boston, and then 9/11 happened, and I did some contract work and as a defense contractor and trained people. My client was mostly State Department, and this shit was fucking fishy as shit. Fucking, I got veteran buddies who are listening to me right now, both male and female. Where are you at, Katrina?
I saw her in here earlier.
She
I don't
was
know.
in here?
She's,
Okay,
I thought I saw her
Right.
screening.
So it's not. I'm not just saying I'll do some shit. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying, there's weight behind what I'm telling you. I'm drunk right now.
Yeah, obviously.
But I care mostly about me and mine. If you're in my sphere, my family and my people, I'm more about that than anything else. And in my unit.
Yeah, Mago said...
Hurt people I care about, I will fuck you up.
Well, I'm the same.
Yeah.
And like I said, I don't really see anyone that would do fucked up shit to an animal would also do fucked up shit to a child.
Yeah, it's very similar.
So I don't really see much of a difference there. I'm not, like I said, I'm not minimizing violence against children, obviously, but I see that as equivalent. Like anybody that would do that to an innocent animal would also do that to an innocent.
Exactly.
That's why one of the red flags of serial killers is cruelty toward animals when they're kids.
And
you know where that's going.
I never had that. I'm a confirmed killer. I've never had any cruelty. I've always loved animals and been an animal trainer. It's always humans I've hated because they knew better.
Well, yeah, that's kind of why you know, if they're adults, if they're old enough to know better and they still do fucked up shit, then yeah. You know, if an animal like attacks you and eats you, that's, you know, they have an excuse. They're just kind of like, hey, you're food or whatever, or you're in my area or whatever. It's just kind of like you can't blame them.
No, they're just
they're just doing what they do.
Doing what they're supposed to do.
But a person's
supposed to know
knows better.
You're supposed to be a human being.
If you choose to do that anyway, then I'm not too worried about what happens to you. Just saying.
My chosen profession was, well, let's go back to the story.
Okay. Mango said, this is so effed up. What happened to this kid? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I would be fucking beside myself.
Like I said, I
would feel so fucking helpless and angry.
Well, that's how everybody feels.
Yeah,
and like I said, and especially when you're a parent and your child is taken, because there's literally nothing you can do. Nothing. Yeah. And like after, you know, if they're found, if their remains are found, like I said, it's over. It's like there's nothing you can do about it. And it's like you can go like your whole life and you could be like, if I had done this differently, if I had done that, and that will fuck you up. But I can understand how, because I would be exactly the same.
Animals and children are innocent.
If I had a kid and something like this happened to them, I would never, ever, ever forgive myself. Yep. Ever. So I can understand. I feel really bad for Reve because she didn't do anything. Like, I know some people would be like, oh my God, you left him by himself for 10 minutes. Like, it was 1981. Everybody did that.
Yeah.
Everybody did that back then. It was just, I don't blame her. It was just kind of, she was right there. She was in the same store. You know what I mean? It's like, if there was other kids there, she didn't leave him by himself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just kind of, she didn't know that shit was going to happen. It's not her fault.
And I've killed a shit ton of animals too. But it was always game animals. Deer, rabbit, fucking squirrel. And it's always with respect. You're not doing this for sexual purposes or anything. You know what I mean? This is just part of the... Because eagles eat all those animals too. You know what I mean? And if an eagle gets a hold of a damn squirrel, he eats it alive. At least my shit was dead when I was eating it. Okay? Animals usually die in the wild kind of a fucking horrible
Well, like
death.
I said, at least if you're going to hunt for food and stuff like that.
You eat those things.
And put them out of their misery so they don't know what happened to them.
It's fast, right, yeah.
You know, I don't have a problem with that.
That's why I stopped hunting squirrels, because it wasn't fast enough.
Yeah.
You'd hit them, and they'd fucking beg and fall, and no, don't... And I never liked that, even with a 22.
I mean, squirrels are pretty smart.
And I'm like, damn, man. I felt like a damn murderer. I had a whole damn belt filled with fucking dead squirrels, and fucking had about 30 or 40 of them one day, and it still didn't even make a decent stew.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's not worth
No,
it.
I'd rather kill one deer and eat for fucking weeks than to fucking...
And like I said, as long as you just do it,
hungry.
like, so they don't know what hit them.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really have...
Right.
But anybody that would make anything suffer,
Right.
like, there's something wrong with you, obviously.
Well, this idea of killing things for sex,
yeah.
that fucking infuriates me.
Yeah, because there's something fucking wrong with you.
Yeah.
Most people are not like that. You know?
You gotta die. for
Yeah.
that.
Most people do not want to watch other animals or humans suffer.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not normal.
Well, when there's a sexual motive behind the murder, it's just like fucking...
Yeah.
Fucking short circuits me.
Yeah. Well, I get
I'm sure
it.
it does it to a lot of people.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm like that too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
Right.
You're not unusual in that regard.
Right.
I think most people are like that.
Yeah. It makes me want to stomp a motherfucker into a greasy spot.
Oh, yeah.
When I hear that. Yeah. I can't
Me too.
stand it.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Sex isn't like that.
I mean,
Yeah.
normally, no.
No,
It's just
no, no.
If you do think that, then
You got to go.
please get some therapy.
You got to go.
Because
Yeah.
it's
if you
not
think that,
right.
you got to go. Yeah.
Jeffy Art says, supposedly, John Walsh tore up the room he was in when he found out about the confirmation of Adam's remains.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and Mango said, yeah, I can't blame him. Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, fucking, you'd be fucking furious.
That was, at the time, that was their only child.
Yeah, and you'd be frustrated as fuck. You'd feel totally helpless.
Yeah, and there's nothing you could do. Absolutely nothing. I can't imagine what that would feel like. So, the coroner ruled that the cause of death was asphyxiation. Now, the state of the remains, he wasn't... this is fucked up. I haven't seen photos of the whole head, but I did see photos of, like, parts of the head. You know what I mean? So I have looked at that.
You saw parts of the head?
Uh-huh.
Man, I don't even want to see that shit.
Yeah, you don't. But, that's what I do for the research. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, it wasn't... It was still, like, recognizable as a person. It wasn't, like, super decayed or anything. But what the coroner said was that Adam had probably died, he estimated 6 to 10 days before the head was discovered, which suggests to me that he was probably killed not too long after he was abducted, which is about standard for people that abduct children like this. They usually kill them
Same day.
the same day or the next day. They don't usually keep them. So as I said, the rest of the body has never been recovered. They did keep the head for many years in the morgue until 2008, when the case was officially closed, which we'll get into in a little while because I don't know if I agree with that or not. Now, at this stage, so John and Reve, understandably and rightfully so, I think, were pretty angry at the Hollywood police department because they felt like they had botched the investigation. Like, starting with when Adam was just a missing person for 16 days, and then later when it was a murder investigation. It does seem that they weren't real up on shit. Like I said, they didn't... Hollywood, Florida at the time, they didn't really have the resources to deal with a crime of this magnitude. They hadn't really seen anything like this happen in the area, so they didn't really know what they were doing. And in 1981, they didn't really have missing child protocols in place in the same way that we have nowadays. It was, in fact, Adam's case that led to all of the, protocols that we have nowadays, like among other cases too, like Amber Hagen and stuff like that. But, it was that, so they didn't really have a lot of systems in place to deal with this kind of thing because it didn't happen that often, And as I said, if you've worked in a retail store, like a department store, a big box store, like I think Walmart started it, but I think they do it everywhere. I saw like some people commenting that they'd worked at like, Home Depot or places like that. Anywhere it's like a big box store, they have a thing, like a protocol that's code Adam. So like if somebody comes to the customer service desk and says, hey, I don't know where my kid is, then they're supposed to immediately like lock the store down so nobody can come in or go out until they find where the kid went. You know what I mean? And I believe that they still do that nowadays, and I believe that they still call it Code Adam as far as I know, and this is the case that it's named after. So, for 2 years after the discovery of the head, the investigation didn't really... I mean, they were working on it, obviously, but it didn't really get anywhere. But then, in 1983, comes, holy shit, is that really
yeah,
that
that
dude's...
motherfucker's out there doing his fucking
Sorry,
shit.
our next door neighbor is like, I don't know if y'all can hear it, but it's like super loud.
Yeah.
I'm just like getting kind of distracted by it because I'm just
He's
like,
a-
what the fuck? It's like super loud
He's
music.
a very wealthy construction contractor who has a beautiful home next to us, a 2-story mansion, basically. That bitch has got a bunch of convict labor out there, and they're making fucking shit, making huge buildings here in Florida. And he's got a hoopty fucking super monster truck with a stereo that you can hear on the
And
other side of the fucking
It rattles
place.
the house.
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
hear, actually, it rattles this room because my room is
Yeah.
over the garage and it's the closest to that, my office rather. Our bedroom though, sometimes it's so loud that it drowns out
Yeah.
the TV in the bedroom.
He's a big old redneck, and he fucking listens to the worst music possible. It's like a combination of rap and fucking country western.
Yeah, it's
All
pretty.
have it.
It's pretty shit.
Fucking terrible.
And usually it's Wednesday night though.
Yeah.
It's like usually it's Friday night
Yeah,
and
people
Saturday
call the
night.
cops on him. They call the fucking
And
house.
nothing gets
nothing
done.
happens because he's on
Numerous
the
people have called the
because
cops.
he's
on
on
him.
the fucking
He's on the HOA.
He's on the HOA.
So he
He's on the
gets away.
homeowners association. Yeah.
So he gets away
I
with
need
it.
to kick his ass off.
I know.
But he's got a big old fucking. His house is like twice what this one is.
Yeah, it's 2 doors down from ours, but
Yeah,
it's
2
like
doors
it's
down.
so loud.
Yeah,
like,
it's
just,
beautiful,
It
too. You got a
rattles the
beautiful
walls.
house.
It rattles the walls. So yeah, so for 2 years the case kind of goes nowhere. But then in 1983, we're gonna talk about good old Ottis Toole.
Yeah, this guy, Ottis.
Yeah.
That's some shit.
All right, so let's talk about Ottis Toole for a second. So in 1983, he confessed to killing Adam Walsh. Now, I'm pretty sure we've done a show about Ottis Toole and
Yeah.
Henry Lee Lucas.
Henry Lucas making more.
They're quite famous.
Yeah.
So-
famous shitbags.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a like pair of fucking scumbags. We might have done them on one of our Killer Couples shows, actually. So these two shitheels have claimed. Well, okay, so Henry Lee Lucas actually has claimed more murders than Ottis Toole has. Henry Lee Lucas is up there and is like, yeah, he's killed like 600 people, like thereabouts. Ottis Toole has basically more like 108, 125. I've heard like a couple different things. But yeah, they confess to fucking everything, right? So while, we've discussed this on the show about them, while I do believe that they have killed some people, Ottis Toole in particular was convicted of 6 murders and 1 case of arson, as far as I can recall. But there is no fucking way that they killed as many people as they did. Now, Netflix has a really good documentary, like a documentary series about them, which is called The Confession Killers, which goes a lot into why they would just confess to anything. So like any kind of high profile crime, which is one of the reasons that I don't know if I entirely believe that Ottis Toole was responsible for this. I'm not saying he didn't kill people, because he did. Did he do this one? I don't know. I'm not so sure. But yeah, so we'll get into that in a little bit. Now, they killed a bunch of people together, or did whatever they did, did their little scumbag journey across America or whatever. And they eventually kind of went their separate ways. But in 1983, at around the same time, they ended up in separate prisons. So Henry Lee Lucas was in prison in Texas, and Ottis Toole was in prison in Florida. Because Ottis Toole actually lived in Jacksonville, Florida, which is in the north part of Florida, in case you don't know. Now, Ottis Toole evidently figured out that Henry Lee Lucas had been getting a lot of attention and a lot of perks and stuff like that by confessing to various high-profile crimes and getting the cops to take him on little excursions and shit like that, buy him milkshakes and whatever. Like I said, we talked about that on the show that we did about them. So Toole decided that he was going to get in on some of that action too, because why not? So now the thing about it, so Toole decides, now it should be instructive that Ottis Toole did not, as far as I'm aware, everything that I read kind of suggested this, that he didn't confess to killing Adam Walsh until a day or two after the TV movie about the case aired on NBC in 1983, which I saw. Actually, I think everybody saw that in 1983 because everybody was talking about that the next day at school. What grade was I in 1983? I can't remember what grade I was in. 4th grade? No. 3rd grade.
When?
1983. What grade were you in 1983?
83, I would have been...
Because you're a couple years older than me.
I'd have been like in 9th or 9th grade. 8th grade, maybe.
You sure?
Yeah.
So I must have been...
1984, I think I was in Brazil at that time when they came out. That was the fucking...
So I was in 3rd or 4th grade. I was still in elementary school. I was still in elementary school.
Yeah. So I must have been in 8th grade.
And I remember that movie airing in like everybody. It seemed like everybody watched it. I think the viewing numbers were 40 million, something like that. But I remember Jo Beth Williams was in it, like the mom from Poltergeist. She was in it, and that I can't remember that actor's name, but I can see his face. But yeah, so it was a big deal. So a day or two after that movie aired, coincidentally, Ottis Toole confessed to killing Adam Walsh. Now, here's the thing. The first story that he told police was that him and Henry Lee Lucas were driving around and for whatever reason decided they were just going to pick up a random kid and do some shit to them. So they're driving around in Hollywood, Florida, so he says. And then they pick up this kid outside of the Sears. And then they raped him and cut his head off. Like Henry Lee Lucas cut his head off, like with a machete or something, or a bayonet or whatever. Now, I will note that in his initial confession, we'll call it that, the description that he gave of the boy that they allegedly picked up from the mall did not look anything like Adam. Like, I think he said the kid had like curly blonde hair, whereas like Adam's hair was like straight and brown. It was, you know what I mean? And like the stuff that he was wearing and stuff like that wasn't the same. So, I don't know. I'm not buying it.
No.
And then later on, like the cops found out, well, Henry Lee Lucas was in prison it was either Maryland or Virginia, like for some other unrelated thing. He's like, he was in prison when Adam was abducted. So when they told Ottis that, he changed his story. Ottis Toole then said that he did the shit by himself. He said, I was just driving around in my 1971 Cadillac Sedan DeVille, which was white, and I was driving around this mall, and I saw Adam standing by the entrance of the Sears store, and he lured the kid into the car, like saying he had candy and toys and stuff. And then he started driving north on 95. Because like I said, if you don't know, like Hollywood, Florida is in South Florida. And Ottis Toole lived in Jacksonville, which if you don't know Florida, that's a 4.5 hour drive. It's far. You know what I mean? It's far. So he says he started driving toward Jacksonville. And he's like, and at first, Adam was kind of chill and he wasn't like all that worried about it. But then like the farther they went, like he started to panic. And then Ottis said, I punched him in the face and then like started beating him until he was unconscious. And then he said that he drove north on the Florida Turnpike to this kind of service road that nobody was on. And that he saw that Adam was still alive and was like still breathing, and then strangled him to death with a seatbelt, dragged him out of the car, decapitated him with a machete that he had. Some reports claim that he raped him as well, but like I said, they never did find the rest of his body, so that could not be definitively proven. Although I would imagine that that probably is what happened, because that's the reason that a little boy like that would be snatched randomly. It would usually be a sexual motive.
Thing, yeah.
So I imagine he probably was raped before he was killed, but like I said, there's no way of proving that because they never found the rest of his body. But yeah, so he said he cut the kid's head off, and then he said, okay, so his first version of the story was that he buried the rest of the body. But then he told the police where the body was supposedly buried, but then when they went there and they dug, they didn't find anything. So then he later claimed, oh, well, no, I took the body back to Jacksonville with me and I put it in an old refrigerator that I had in my backyard and I burned it. And then I drove around with the head in my car for a bunch of days because I kind of forgot about it. And then when I remembered that it was in there, I was going by the bridge, you know, where it was eventually found, like on the turnpike, and I threw it out the car.
Yeah.
Which doesn't sound super likely. I mean, it's not impossible, but yeah. His claim for why he took Adam was that he wanted to raise Adam as his own son, but that he later realized that this was not feasible because the kid was smarter than him. I mean, Ottis was kind of a dummy.
Yeah.
He had like a very below average IQ. He was a little bit mentally challenged.
Ugly too.
Yeah.
Weird looking motherfucker.
Yeah, he was a weird looking.
Like some of them.
Like I said, if
hills
you
have eyes.
if you have if you open a dictionary and you have a picture of like child predator or whatever, like his picture would be like right there. He looks like a scud.
I don't believe a word fucking Ottis said.
I kind of don't either.
No.
I mean, the fact that he changed the story.
He was a confession machine.
At first, he thought, oh, me and Henry Lee Lucas did this shit together. But then when he found out Henry Lee Lucas was actually in jail when it happened, he's like, oh, well, never mind. It was all me.
And by memory, I'm looking back from what we said before, if my memory serves, I believe that Ottis only killed one person, and it was during a fucking gas station holdup.
He was convicted for 6, but I don't know.
I think he only killed one.
Yeah.
I think.
I don't think they killed that many people. I mean,
No.
it's bad.
They confessed
They're
to a bunch of
scumbags.
shit. They were
but-
crazy scumbags.
Yeah.
The only one that
don't
I
think-
remember that I would say for sure that he did was, if I remember correctly, is that he shot a dude while they were robbing a gas station.
Well, didn't they? Well, Henry Lee Lucas killed Ottis's niece, didn't they? Becky?
Yeah, but whether or not he did that, I don't
Yeah.
know. See, I think fucking Lucas killed Becky. I don't think another show that we did, and I just was remembering what a confession machine those two were, Henry Lee Lucas and Ottis. They would confess to anything because they'd give them fucking McDonald's and fucking drive around. They didn't want out of prison. They liked prison. Prison was a way of not having to fucking work for a living. You know, you can get some 3 hots in a cot, and then they'd go out and fuck around, you know, do some fucking field work, and then come back in, and they just had, they liked prison. Goddamn, my fucking neighbors out there, Jesus Christ. I don't know if you guys can hear that. I'm going to have to put an end to that shit one of these days. Okay, she's back. But no, I never really bought into the Ottis Toole and Henry Lee Lucas serial killer thing. They killed some people.
They did. Like I said, they're dirtbags.
Nowhere near as fucking.
Yeah,
what
I mean,
would
they
do.
just, you know, watch The Confession Killers. It's, if you haven't seen it, it's like
Yeah.
actually really good. And the thing about it is that despite Ottis supposedly knowing some details about the crime, but see, if you watch that documentary, you will see that a lot of times the cops kind of fed him information, whether they did it deliberately or without realizing that they were doing that. Like, a lot of times they'd be like asking him questions. They were like kind of leading questions. You know what I mean? Well, don't you mean that blah de blah, that this happened? Oh yeah, that's right. You know, it was that kind of thing. So the stuff that he said about the Adam Walsh case could very well be a case of the cops kind of feeding him information, because the fact that he first said, oh, we buried the remains and then they couldn't find them, and he's like, oh no, never mind, I burned them in a refrigerator, like in my backyard, like I took them back to Jacksonville, and him like driving around with the head and stuff. I'm just like, what the yeah, I don't know, it just sounds a little far-fetched to me. Now, you know, I'm not a cop and I wasn't there, you know, so I don't know, but it just seems like everything that he says you have to like take with a grain of salt. You know what I'm saying? Because he would just confess to any high profile murder like that just to get attention. So that's his car. Uh-oh, we disconnected. Let me see if it reconnects. Okay, Hopefully it didn't glitch out too much. We still on? It disconnected for a second.
It did?
Yeah. I think it's back on now, though.
Okay.
Let me just... I mean, you're watching it, so make sure.
Let's see if I walk in. They still see... Yeah, they're saying they still see us.
All right.
Zach's in there.
All right.
I'm
Yeah.
here.
It was just like a second or two.
Yeah. Yeah, motherfucker's down there jamming out.
I know, Jesus Christ. It's Wednesday
Fuck,
night.
man.
Piss off.
It's Wednesday he's doing that shit.
Yeah. And it's like it's a school night. It's like a work night.
If y'all are regulars, you know we've been putting up to...
I don't know what his fucking deal is, man. It's so fucking...
Here's the thing.
It's so obnoxious.
If I go over there and fucking go walk over there and talk to the dude, it's going to end up in a shootout.
It probably will.
And he would probably win because the fucking cops are like, you're on his property.
Yeah.
So,
Might have to snipe him from over here. Just
Yeah.
so you know what I mean. We've talked about that before. But yeah, so
I'm gonna shoot his truck up.
Yeah.
It's coming out of his truck.
Yeah, that's what it
I
is.
shoot that truck up from.
I don't understand this need to be as obnoxious as that. I just don't understand it. It's like, why?
He's drunk and he wants attention.
I'm drunk too, but it's like I don't go out there like yell and be like, "Hey, everybody, whole neighborhood has to listen to me," and like I'm gonna keep everybody awake. Fuck that shit. That's just super rude. Yeah. So, okay. So the cops did manage to bring Toole's car in, for a preliminary examination. Now there did appear to be blood in there, like they did luminol. And there's kind of a big thing where, and you can, if you Google it, you can see the pictures and see how you feel about this. But they sprayed luminol in the car, and apparently there was blood in the car, and a lot of people have said that there was a pattern of blood in one part of the car that looked like Adam's face. Now I have seen this photo. It doesn't really look like... It could be a face, but it could be lots of things.
It's a stretch, huh?
You know what I mean? So it could be just like a pareidolia type of thing. People seeing what they want to see. But it could very well be a face. I mean, I'm not saying that. And the fact that there was that much blood, if indeed it is blood, because I know luminol will pick up some other things too, even though that's generally what it's supposed to pick up. But there did seem to be an alarming amount of blood in his car. So there was that. For whatever reason, the cops, and like I said, this is why the Walshes, were pretty vocal in talking about how much the police had whiffed this investigation, which they absolutely did, which they did apologize for later on. So they knew what they did. They did not send the car for further examination. They didn't type the blood that was found in the car. They didn't really do just regular shit, common sense shit that you would do. Now, they didn't do anything like that. And I don't really know why. I don't think it was any kind of conspiracy or anything. I just thought that they were being... Yeah, I just think they were idiots and they just didn't really know what they were doing because they didn't deal with this kind of situation with any regularity. So they were just like, we don't know. And it's like they didn't really care enough. I don't know. It was just like... The shit that they did was just, I don't know, it was dumb. Now, I will note that John Walsh does actually believe that Ottis Toole was the one responsible for murdering his son. He notes that when they searched Ottis Toole's house in Jacksonville, they found a pair of green shorts and like a shoe, like a sandal, that was similar to what Adam was wearing when he was abducted. So there is that.
That doesn't mean the same.
That's what I mean. So I don't really know if that means anything necessarily. So you do have the blood in the car, which is unusual. But the thing about it is that, and again, the cops really, man, they screwed the pooch on this one. They somehow managed to lose the car. I can't remember exactly how it happened. I think the car ended up being given back to Ottis, and then it was just like sold back to the person that had originally sold it to him or something like that, and then like nobody knows what happened to it. So the cops really kind of failed to get as much evidence as they could out of the car, and then they lost the car. They also supposedly had a machete that had been in Ottis Toole's possession that had ostensibly been used to decapitate Adam, which they think happened post-mortem. They don't think he was killed that way. They think he was strangled first. But they somehow lost that as well. So the cops lost all the evidence, which, again, not great. Not great. So there was that. And as I said, like, John Walsh was not shy about... He wrote a book in 1997, which was called Tears of Rage. And he was basically talking about how shitty the investigation had been, which I gotta say I kind of agree. Losing evidence, not terrific. They didn't really follow up on a lot of leads that probably should have been followed up on. So, you know, they didn't really do a great job. And like I said, they did apologize for it later on. Yeah, so they lost the car, lost the carpet that was in the car that had blood on it. They lost the machete. You know, so there's that. Now, Ottis Toole, as it happened, even though, according to a lot of the lead investigators, that he was the main suspect, even back then, like the entire time, but he was never charged in the case. And that was because of lack of evidence, but also because he was already in prison for, you know, various other crimes, and he died in 1996 of cirrhosis of the liver and possibly complications from AIDS. I've heard of that as well. He was only 49 years old. He was serving Ottis Toole did.
Yeah.
He was serving a life sentence at that point for his other crimes that he had committed. So he was actually never formally charged with the murder of Adam Walsh. As I said, he was in prison for 6 counts of murder and 1 count of arson. And as I said, you know, according to the lead investigators, he had been the prime suspect all along, but, you know, they did say, yes, the case was admittedly weak, but had he still been alive, that maybe they could have charged him with it. But they did admit that they had made a lot of mistakes along the way, which, duh, they did. So there was that. Now, so, okay. There was also a thing where supposedly Ottis Toole's niece said to John Walsh that Ottis had confessed to the murder of Adam Walsh, like, on his deathbed. Like I said, that's hearsay. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. I don't know. But, you know, they said that anyway. And so John Walsh does seem to be convinced that Ottis Toole was indeed the killer. And in 1997, a review of the case was carried out by the then Hollywood police chief, and he also came to the same conclusion that even though the evidence wasn't super strong, they were convinced that Ottis Toole was probably the person that had done this. However, there are a lot of other theories about this, and like I said, I don't know if I believe one of the theories that's already floating around out there, or if I believe Adam Walsh was killed by someone who never got caught. I'm kind of leaning toward that latter thing, but we'll get into it. So in 2007, another hypothesis emerged, and this was that Adam Walsh had been killed by Jeffrey Dahmer. Now, this might sound a little out there, because Jeffrey Dahmer is, of course, a very famous serial killer, but it's not as out there as it sounds. So, obviously, Jeffrey Dahmer, who we've done a show about, he was arrested in Wisconsin in 1991, and ultimately confessed to killing, you know, at least a dozen boys and men. And he was named as a suspect in the murder of Adam Walsh. Interestingly, after they did the America's Most Wanted show, because like I said, John Walsh would go on to do America's Most Wanted, which we'll get into in a little bit. But after they did the show about that, Jeffrey Dahmer's dad called into the show and said that Jeffrey Dahmer was actually a pedophile and that he suspected that Dahmer had killed Adam Walsh as well.
Damn, his own dad ratted him out.
Well, I mean,
how did he know his son was a pedophile?
Well, okay, so Jeffrey Dahmer,
file,
a PDF file, as we say.
Yeah, as we say.
Now, Jeffrey Dahmer was provably living in the Miami Beach area at the time of Adam Walsh's disappearance, which, you know, Miami and Hollywood are only, like 20 miles apart or something like that. And I will note, too, that at least 2 eyewitnesses, and I've seen some reports that say as many as 7, saw somebody that maybe could have been Jeffrey Dahmer at the mall on the day that Adam was kidnapped. One person said that they had seen him like skulking around in the toy department, and another person that said that they saw someone that they described as a young blonde man with a protruding chin, that sounds like Jeffrey Dahmer, pushing a kid into a blue van and then taking off. And later on, when, you know, Jeffrey Dahmer's arrest in 1991 was made public, they reported to the police, that's the man that we saw, like, taking Adam Walsh. But this was 10 years later, so take that.
Jeffrey he didn't admit to that.
Well, yeah, we'll get into that in a second,
okay.
But yeah. So
Jeff would usually admit. He didn't seem to have any shame.
That's one of the things that think that, yeah. Now, I will note, because a couple people did bring up the whole blue van thing, that at the time of Adam's abduction, Jeffrey Dahmer was working at like a sub sandwich shop, and the delivery vehicles that they had were blue vans, like for that time. So it's possible that he could be driving a blue van. And I think where he worked was only about 20 minutes from that mall. Now, there was also a report that a blue van was seen by a Publix truck driver whose name was Dennis Bubb. And this driver said that he was passing by on the bridge on the Florida Turnpike at around midnight on August 7th of 1981, which, if you're keeping track, was about 3 days before Adam's severed head was found. And he said that he saw a blue van parked on this bridge, and then he said that he saw a white male with a flashlight take something round out of a white bucket and throw it over the bridge. Now, this truck driver said that he reported this sighting on August 11th, which was the day after the head was found, but before the head was identified. But he said at the time that he was dismissed by police. Now, I'm not sure if this is entirely the case, because I think that some of the details he added later on, like after, because he said that he reported all of this back in 1981, right? Like right after the head was found. But some reports I've seen said that, well, a lot of the details about it, actually, he didn't report them until later, until 10 years later, when everything about Jeffrey Dahmer came out. You know what I mean? So, like I said, take that with a grain of salt. I'm not really sure, because you have to think that a lot of the reports that came out about Jeffrey Dahmer didn't come out until after Jeffrey Dahmer blew up in the media, because he got arrested in 1991, and then everybody suddenly remembered, 10 years ago I saw this guy. So I don't know if that's the case or not, but some people did say that they had seen him. So, so I don't know if that's the case. Now, I will note, though, that when Jeffrey Dahmer was arrested in Milwaukee in 1991, he did have 11 severed heads in his apartment. So he was a severed head connoisseur. Do we want to say that? I mean,
collector.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying that it's just much like Ted Bundy, who also kept severed heads, and they keep them for keepsakes and for sexual purposes. I know that's horrible to say, but that's why serial killers keep them. That's why Jeffrey Dahmer was keeping them, and that's why Ted Bundy was keeping them. So that's why a lot of people didn't think it was that outlandish that people were saying that Jeffrey Dahmer was maybe a suspect, because he was known to go after men and boys, and he was known to keep severed heads. You know what I mean? So it wasn't really that weird. Now, I will note that the youngest victim of Jeffrey Dahmer was, I believe, 14, which, if you're counting, is 8 years older than Adam was, who was only 6. Now, they did interview Jeffrey Dahmer about the Adam Walsh case in 1992. And at this point, he had already confessed to pretty much everything. And his quote was, when they asked him about it, he said, "I've told you everything. How I killed them, how I cooked them, who I ate. Why wouldn't I tell you if I did it to someone else?" Which sounds pretty definitive because he did seem pretty straightforward when he got caught of like admitting everything that he had done. Like he didn't deny it or nothing. However, some people have argued that because Adam was so young, maybe he would have denied that because he didn't want to be seen as a pedophile because he would be killed in prison. And there were reports before he was arrested that he would, on more than one occasion, would go into public parks and would like jerk it in front of kids.
We're talking about Dahmer.
Dahmer, yeah.
Somebody just who is it that mentioned this? Yeah, Murder Hornet. He did mention something though, because I'd read up about Dahmer. Dahmer liked black guys.
Yeah.
Adam Walsh is not black.
True, but everybody he killed wasn't black though.
Yeah.
And
he
maybe
said he liked black guys because they had better musculature.
Mm-hmm.
What he said. You know, better muscle definition. He was big into anatomy.
Yeah.
And
he was a weird fucking dude.
The pedo angle, I'm not sure if it's there, but
yeah, I mean, there was no proof. Like I said, he did go after like teenagers. Like I said, the youngest woman that they know of was 14, which is young.
He was young when he did that, though. Isn't that the one that he killed with the barbell?
No, I think no. I don't think so.
All right.
The first one he did, I think that guy was 19 or 18.
He was in high school when he killed
if I remember correctly. He was just somebody that he used to see like jogging by all the time. But I think that guy was like like the same age as him.
Yeah.
Or maybe like a year or two younger. I can't remember. It's been a long time since we've done the Jeffrey Dahmer case. But in any case, like he didn't kill or he didn't admit to killing anyone younger than 14. So a lot of people have said, and Jeffrey Dahmer himself said before, he was killed in prison, obviously. But, he said, I would have confessed it if I had done that.
believe him.
Yeah, I kind of lean toward that too. Like I said, it's not crazy to posit that because he did have a similar MO to that with the heads and everything. But the fact that he was so forthcoming after he got caught would lead me to believe that had he killed Adam Walsh, he probably would have said that.
I always had Dahmer pegged as a guy kind of like Albert Fish, where they're sadomasochists, basically. And they like to confess to what they did, to gross you out, and to abase themselves.
Yeah.
Dahmer liked to be, same thing with Albert Fish, he liked to be considered a low person.
Yeah, they get off on that. Like everyone being disgusted by them.
Right, but both in the case of Fish and in Dahmer, they didn't make up what they did. They didn't try to take claim for other people's crimes. So I don't think that dude did it. I don't think Dahmer did it.
Yeah, I'm kind of like not leaning toward that either. Like I said, I can see why people would maybe think that because he did have a similar
It's
MO.
similar, but I don't think he did.
I don't think he did either. Because like I said, had he done it, I think he would have told them.
Yeah, Dahmer would have been. Oh yeah, I was into that underage fucking boy pussy. He'd have said all kinds of crazy shit. Albert Fish did that.
Yeah.
About eating a little fucking 9-year-old girl or 7-year-old girl. Fucking.
Yeah, we did a show about that motherfucker too.
Yeah, that was a bad motherfucker too. And this is 1800s, early 1900s.
Yeah.
So they're out there.
Yeah, horrible people have existed.
Yeah, they've always existed
throughout history. That's not a new thing.
Oh yeah, I told her I was going to eat her, and she cried and cried, but I ate her, but I didn't have sex with her. He's fucking crazy.
And like I said, I don't deny that I don't doubt that he did that. But I think the fact, but it's even more disgusting that he got off on telling other people about it.
Yeah.
Like because it was giving him a chubby.
Yeah.
Telling other people about it and how disgusted people were about like he got off on that.
Yeah, I read
fucked up.
I read a book from the main FBI profiler, and he said that that particular type of offender liked to confess because they kind of got off on the reactions that they would get from other people.
Yeah.
No, I don't. if Dahmer did it, he would have confessed to it.
I feel like probably he would
Yeah.
have, even though the kid was only 6.
Yeah.
You know, so I could see how maybe there's a barrier there. It's like, oh, that kid was like way too young and I shouldn't have done that. But it's like, I don't think that would have happened. I think he seemed pretty forthcoming, as I said. So I think that had he done it, I think he would have said about it.
Yeah.
Now, I will, okay, I will note
There's
that,
one exception.
where's that?
That would have been, oh man, who's the guy who is the greatest of them all? He hasn't been top today, till today. He actually could attract women. He was a top feeder.
Who, Ted Bundy?
Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy would not admit to killing that girl inside that fucking pig slaughterhouse.
Yeah, that's,
'Cause she was
and he
underage.
totally did.
He did that shit.
He did that shit.
But he wouldn't admit to that one because she was underage.
Yeah.
Because
So there is a precedent
there's
for
a
that.
precedent for that, but it's a different kind of offender. Bundy had this fucking thing where he wanted you to see him as a top tier predator,
Yeah.
and that he was respectable. He only went after pretty girls, you know, and they were always fucking, you know, old enough to defend themselves. That type of deal. He was one of those. He didn't want to admit to fucking killing that. What was she, 13 or 14?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did that though.
Yeah, of course he did.
Yeah, he did it. He just was embarrassed about it.
Right. So like I said, there is a precedent for that. So it's
Right.
not,
It's not.
I-
yeah. So,
but it's not quite the same. Because like you said, Jeffrey Dahmer and
Right.
Ted Bundy are two different types of offenders.
you're right. Yeah.
Even though it seems similar on the surface, but it's really not.
Fucking.
They have a different pathology.
Yeah. The kind of guy that Dahmer was, he would have confessed. He was like Albert Fish. Albert Fish, not only he confessed, he made shit up, I believe.
Probably.
Some of the shit Albert Fish said was kind of like.
Although all this stuff about him sticking needles up in his taint, he did.
Yeah,
he
he did all
He
that.
did do
He did
that
all
because they did
he was
X-rays.
a sadomasochist. But some of the stuff
So
that
many
he-
needles in his taint.
Some
you
of the
guys.
stuff he claimed though couldn't be verified about what he did to the little black boy and stuff. Couldn't be verified.
Didn't he say like he shit on bread and like spread
Yeah.
it on bread like peanut butter and like
Yeah,
fed
eat
it to
it,
people and like eat it and stuff?
he
And like he
liked-
ate it and like fed it to its like.
Yeah, he liked to gross you out.
Yeah. Like he
did
just thought
do
that
some
was
of that
hilarious.
shit, but I don't think he didn't do all of it though.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like this type of, let's call it a person. This type of person with bunny rabbit ears is they just kind of get off on everyone else's
Discomfort.
revolted
Yeah.
reaction to them. Like they think it's so hilarious and so awesome that just we're just so outside of the norm that
Yeah,
everyone
we're
is
the real rebels.
right.
All the normies.
Right. That's I
Okay.
kind of
Yeah.
They kind of feel like that.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
kind of. It's like they're like the ultimate edgelord.
Yeah, which you know, me and Jen being goth people and shit, we kind of understand that, but they're taking this shit too far, and it's like people are dying.
That's what
And
I
that's
mean.
not-
It's like I'm all about like doing shit you want to do that's outside the norm and everything, but everyone has to be consenting and overage
Yeah,
and shit
yeah,
like
yeah.
that. Like everyone,
You
as
want
long
to
as you're doing
respect the
that,
rights of others,
right? Like the minute you're like snatching little kids off the street and
Yeah.
like cutting
Right.
their heads
And
off and
imposing your
making
shit
them
on
eat
somebody else.
poop and shit like that.
No.
It's like yes, we've gone beyond the bounds of being like a rebel. Okay,
No,
that's
yeah,
like
yeah.
you're not.
Because Dahmer was always talking about being a rebel. That was one of the things that caused him to kill the first fucking teenager when he was in high school. He was telling the guy like, "Yeah, you guys all think you're tough, you want to be rebels, but you only want to have sex with girls." You know what I mean? Fucking, I'd have sex with a boy, and that,
And corpses.
and corpses, and fucking, that's a real rebel shit. Fucking, the dude didn't want to hear that. Fucking. Well, they were working out, and I think he fucking killed him. But that was the same guy. He told him that, I think, didn't he? Or was that two different guys?
Maybe I have to like.
Yeah,
I said.
it's been a long time since.
It's been a long time since
Yeah,
we did that
Dahmer
show.
thought he was something that he wasn't.
Yeah, and well, you know that seems
Yeah.
like a kind of a
Yeah.
you see that a lot in these kind of like serial killers. So it's this self-aggrandizement
Yeah.
in different ways.
Yeah, fucking, he wasn't. Dahmer wasn't just gay. He was a gay fucking serial killer. All right, there's a big difference between the two. You got straight serial killers too. All right, just because that is what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is that just because you're a gay serial killer, that doesn't make you a rebel. It makes you a fucking criminal.
Well, just like every other serial
just like
killer.
if you were doing it with straight people. Yeah,
Yeah, it's not rebellious. You're just
no, it's
a
not
monster.
rebellious. It's fucking sick.
No one thinks you're cool.
No.
Except for, like I said, some
He thought
other
it was cool,
edgelords
though.
in their
Yeah.
mom's basements. They might
Yeah.
think you're cool, but you're
Yeah.
not cool. That's not cool at all. Not cool at all.
It's just, and it's a weird male phenomenon. Some of these dudes, they don't make them like they used to. They're not making as many of them. I guess the societal factors aren't quite there.
It has gone like the incidence of serial killers has dropped again precipitously, just like violent crime in general.
Yeah, dudes tend to be pervs. There's
Sure.
kind of a perv thing to our sex drive. Gay fucking serial killers are super perverted. Fucking look. All you gotta do is just look at Jeffrey Dahmer was one of them, and then what was the other guy? Fucking Dean Coral.
Dean Coral, yeah.
One of the worst.
The Candyman.
One of the worst. And it's always, and then fucking another one of the ones that really harkens back to early American history is Panzeram.
Carl Panzeram.
Carl Panzeram. Motherfucker scares me, all right?
That dude was just...
Yeah. Late 1800s, early 1900s.
That dude just seemed completely...
Yeah.
I don't believe in souls, but he just seemed completely soulless.
Yeah.
He just seemed completely inhuman. Like there was
Yeah.
nothing human about him
No.
at all.
No. When you have a gay serial killer, those motherfuckers are extremely dangerous.
Well, like I said, and don't
They
take
are unfettered.
don't take this the wrong way, but from a statistical standpoint, women do fucked up shit too. I'm not denying that. We've done shows about female serial
It's a different kind of offender.
but one, it's a different kind of offender. You don't
they're
usually,
poisoners.
it's usually poisoners, like
Yeah.
angels of bashing people over the head and taking their money or whatever. Oh, we disconnected.
Okay.
I wonder if that's our
What do you
neighbor.
guys say? Yeah, it's just over here too. Yeah.
Okay. But so it's
Okay,
a slightly different. When women kill, it's not. I mean, 99.99% of the time, it is not a sexual motive.
Yeah.
But when dudes kill serial killers, most of the time it is a sexual motive.
Yeah.
Which, like I said, women don't have that. Usually, don't have that conflation. Like, I understand how that happens because I know how dudes' minds work and like I know how that can occur, but it's just kind of like we don't have that, so it's not really. I don't feel that, so it's not, so I can't relate. But I understand how it can happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Like, I understand how it can happen, but I don't. Like I said, I read the shit about BTK and stuff like that. Like, the way that he thinks intellectually, like, I was just kind of like, okay, I see how you got from point A to point B to point C, but it's like that makes absolutely no fucking sense to me at all. It makes no logical sense to me at all. I understand how it makes logical sense to you, but my brain does not work like that.
Yeah.
At all. Which, like I said, I'm glad of that.
What I was trying to say is that I was talking to my lesbian friend, Katrina, and I don't know if she's probably listening now. She's saying that lesbianism and homosexuality are two very different things in terms of the way the way it's kind of expressed and manifests itself. It's because in male homosexuality, it's men, so it's the male sex drive, it's the male energy behind it. So homosexuality is more of a fuck fest, really.
Well, yeah.
Lesbianism is more about relationships.
Well, yeah, and like I said,
very different.
It's different for everybody, but in general, male gay relationships, they tend to be a lot more open to more promiscuity.
Yeah, well,
they're just kind of an open relationships and things like that. Whereas,
like sexual intensity.
Sure.
So what it is that
and that's like heightened.
Yeah, right. And I got a lot of gay fans here, so fucking you know exactly what I'm talking about. Being a man, male sex drive is strong. It's very testosterone driven. Quantity over quality. Lots of sex. Doesn't matter the quantity. Adventure, conquest. That shit's all fucking healthy. The thing is, though, is that in straight men, we're kind of being controlled or moderated by females about what we could do. When you have a bunch of horny dudes together, that shit could go to fucking heights.
It's gonna go very badly.
It should go to BDSM. This is dudes on dudes. It's manly men doing very manly things with other very manly men. You never can tell what could happen. Sure. You throw a serial killer in that fucking mix, it gets bad. Then you got Carl Panzeram. Okay, go back and look at that show.
Yeah, that was some messed up shit.
Right. The male homosexual serial killer is more dangerous than the heterosexual serial killer.
Well, I don't know if I'd go that far, but it tends to be, the depravity is...
The depravity is fucking crazier.
Because it's, like I said, it's almost like heightened masculinity.
It's hyper masculinity.
Right.
And fucking, my gay friends will tell you that. Fucking, Toby will tell you that and say, yeah, man, you get a bunch of horny dudes together, the motherfuckers are pervs, you know what I mean?
They are,
But that's what men do.
But see, the thing about it, here's the thing. Women are pervs too.
Yeah.
But we're a lot
more
less...
psychological.
Well, yeah, we're a lot less likely to act on the shit.
Yeah.
Like, we think of way more fucked up shit than y'all think of, but we would never do it.
No.
I would never do it.
Angles.
You know what I mean?
Dudes are more...
Like, especially somebody that wasn't, like, willing. You know, if you find somebody that's willing, that's cool. But it's just like, you wouldn't impose it on anybody.
Dudes are more superficial. It's about what it looks like, what it feels like. How much is it? How many of them are there? It's just, it's a little more simple. Women are more...
And this is why we get, like, so frustrated with you guys, like, all the time.
Yeah, it is a different sexuality.
Sure. But, like I said, it's hard to deal with. It's hard to deal with because we're not like, well, I mean, I'm not like that. Like, some chicks are, but I'm not like that at all. So it's just, I get it. I know, but it's difficult to deal with. Bryce says, I don't believe in hurting animals even when they're being a dickhead. My cat left a dead bird on my bed and I just pretended it was all good. Well, that's what you have to do.
No, he's trying to feed you.
Yeah, they're just trying to... They don't know.
Yeah. They're like, here's some food. You feed me. I'm feeding you.
Our cat left us a headless mole.
Yeah, and lizards.
One time.
Yeah. Here, this is for y'all. You treating me good. I'm going to treat
Not
you
in the
good.
bed, but like right by the back. Yeah. Like right by the porch door.
Yeah.
Here for you. And it was just like... it was a squirrel, wasn't it?
It was a squirrel.
It was a headless squirrel. Yeah. With like viscera sticking out, and we were like, oh, thank you so much, and they're like like while we were cleaning it up. They don't know. They're trying to be cool. They're trying to help. They don't know any better. So it's just, and sometimes, because Tom will kind of yell at Pookie if she does something, like, because we hoped that when we bought the new bed, which has kind of a vinyl bumper kind of thing on the sides, we hoped that she wouldn't discover that was vinyl, because, man, she loves to, like tear up shit that's vinyl or leather or whatever. She's like, maybe she won't notice. And so for a long time, she didn't notice. But when, like, a couple days ago, she started noticing, and she's like, oh, all right. And she started, like, doing that with her claws. And, like, Tom started, like, yelling at her. And it's like, you don't want her to do it, but you can't. I mean, you yell at her, and it's just, she's like, well, why, though? Like, I can scratch on other things because we have scratching posts and stuff like that, and other things that we give her to scratch on. Well, why can't I just scratch on this? She doesn't understand. So it's like she just sits there for a second and just, like, looks at you like you're an asshole, and then, like, a few minutes later, she'll just come back and start doing it again because she doesn't. If you're not looking, and then if you yell at her, she gets all upset because she's like, "I'm like, how'd you know?" Like, because she doesn't understand that you can hear her. You know what I mean? If you're not looking, she'll try and pull it off. But yeah. But that's what I mean. They don't know any better. Hugo says there are some cases of women that kill or poison their own kids. Yeah, and like I said, that tends to be, and this is general. Like I said, there's always outliers. There's always different situations. But women tend to kill for practical reasons, or they tend to kill family members. Like, you get stuff like I said, like Angels of Mercy type situations where they kill people that are weaker, old people, children that are in vulnerable situations, or women that will kill their own children. You get that kind of stuff. But in general, they don't kill for the same reasons that men do. And that, like I said, that's a very general statement because you get outliers in every situation. You get somebody like Aileen Wuornos or somebody like that. But who, you know, we did a show about her too, but
She was more like a guy.
yeah, she was very guy-like
But she was lesbian, so that might be
in the way that she went about things. Like normally you wouldn't see that kind of thing with a woman. And that's kind of the thing too, is that I think somebody brought this up on one of the documentaries that I watched about the Adam Walsh case, was that the fact that Adam Walsh was beheaded, they're like, well, you know, they were kind of keeping open all possibilities at this stage, like when they were looking for who the killer was. And it's like, you know, it could be a woman, but it's just like, how many women in the history of serial killing have, you know, like to behead a 6-year-old child? That just doesn't happen. Like, I'm not saying it's never happened, but it's like, it's very, very rare. So they have to go with like statistical. They're like, this is 99.999%. This is a man.
Read what Darth Lord Vader said.
I was ready to disagree, but I think you have a point. I've seen some really aggressive gay men pursuing other men. Yeah, well, the thing about it, it's weird because I kind of feel like, this is probably less so nowadays, but I kind of feel like there was a perception, particularly in the 80s and 90s, that gay men were more feminine.
Yeah, they were passive. They're not.
They're not.
No.
Actually, and this is chemically true as well, like genetically true as well. Like, gay men are actually like hyper masculine.
Yeah.
They have more of it.
Yeah, but the thing is that they're not the ones that normies are seeing.
Right.
Good friend of ours, fucking Toby, he's a good friend of mine in the club. He's a leather daddy. He's all man. He's fucking all man, hyper masculine. He'll even go after women, but he's just an aggressive guy.
Yeah, I know that all too well.
He likes other guys, and he likes black guys who are fucking hung. All right, he likes size. He's a size king. Okay, and if you were to know him, he's a healthy individual. Okay, he's not dangerous or anything. He's just fucking.
Actually, he's awesome. He's
fucking
he's a really nice person.
But you could see if a dude like that went bad and became a serial
Yeah,
killer,
you could see that would be like, that would be really, really bad.
He'd be like fucking Panzeram. He'd be like Carl Panzeram.
Well, I kind of feel like, like, you're not gay, but it's like the way that you are.
Yeah, it'd be like me, but they're trying to take boy pussy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I could see you turning into a serial killer, and like you being like, that would be like really bad.
Yeah, which is
you wouldn't, because it's
dominant,
like,
type guys who are into fucking kind of like sadomasochism, and they're fucking tough, and they like man stuff, military shit, and fucking discipline and punishment. They're into that. All right, they're Rob Halford from fucking...
Like I said, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like I said, there's a lot of people that are into that, and like nowadays you can find people that are like,
we got friends in the fetish scene.
Like I said, we know lots of people
clubs.
in the fetish scene. I've been to lots of fetish clubs in my life. It's like, look, as long as everybody's an adult and as long as everybody's consenting, it's like, look, this is what we're gonna do, and you want to do that, then cool. You know what I mean? You can find people that'll do that. It's just, like I said, obviously the only problem arises is when you're
dealing with people that aren't consenting,
trying to do shit to just random ass people that didn't consent to any of that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Which is fucked up, and I can't imagine
that would be
ever wanting to do that with somebody.
The power dynamic to like an uber dom, where I'm going to do to you what I want to do to you. You don't have to be consenting. You know what I mean? I'm stronger than you.
Well, and that's kind of what scares.
That's a lot of what serial killers are about.
That's kind of what scares me about it, is because to me, as a woman, it seems like a very fine line.
Yeah.
Because even some shit that you've done or you've said, like, I know you would never do anything like that. Yeah. But it's just kind of like some shit you've done or said. I was like, man, that is only like one step from that.
Yeah.
From that.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. You can see why we worry.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, humanity is a spectrum.
Sure.
The main thing that controls me, that keeps me from getting in serious trouble, one is self-discipline. I never fucking want to let myself down. Jenny can attest that I have a code that I live by.
You do.
That's one of the things. And also, I don't want to lose what I built. Okay, I built a lot of good shit. Fucking my relationship with Jenny and fucking the house, and Pookie and the cars and motorcycles and shit.
And Bambi.
If you start
forget
going
Bambi.
down these dark paths, other people, there's ramifications for what you do. Other people will come and get you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and that's why.
And there'll be dudes like me that are gonna come and get
Right.
me, or worse. And they got badges and shit. I was in that scene. I know how the system works.
Sure.
So there's limits to what you can do. You have to understand that if you do something, there's ramifications to it. And that's these dudes that get into this kind of trouble don't understand the system, that there are ramifications. They only think of themselves and the way, and they think that
their
it's
needs.
solipsism,
And
where they think they're the center of the universe and no one could do anything to them. Yeah, they can. Yeah, they can.
well, and
There's always a bigger fish out there.
another thing too is that a lot of not all of them, but a
Yeah.
lot of serial killers do have a misperception
Yeah.
that they are smarter
Yeah.
than the police. You're not.
You're
really-
not.
You're not that
It's only
smart.
going to take it's a matter of
You're
time.
really not that smart, but they really do think they're that smart.
Somebody sent us a
Thank you very much. That's a second super
It's a
chat
big ass super
from
chat.
Bryce
Thank you, Bryce.
from New Zealand.
What do you say?
As a bi guy, I
Yeah.
have to agree. The debauchery is ridiculous, haha. But it's all fun though. Everyone
yeah.
looks out for each other.
Yeah.
And ideally, that's what should happen. Like I
Yeah.
said, as long as everyone's adults and everyone's consenting, do what you want.
Yeah.
Have a good time. I'm not really worried about it.
If dudes were unfettered by the controlling mechanisms of women, they'd get fucking crazy. They'd do all
And we
kinds
know
of-
that. Why do you
Yeah,
think? Why do you
yeah,
think
yeah.
we're so fucking
So-
scared of you all the time?
So the gay scene is wild. Fucking. wrong.
Although I feel safer around gay dudes than I do around straight dudes.
Yeah. Well, me and Jen go to the clubs and fucking we'll be around.
Much
A lot of our
safer.
friends are gay. We'll go to gay clubs or whatever. The music's better.
Well, that's also true.
Okay, and also the guys that are around.
The vibe
here,
is a lot better.
The guys that are around here, they're no trouble. It's just that when you have a bunch of dudes that are hanging around,
Random
each other
ass
in a
straight
scene,
dudes are
they're a little worse because they're going to
Problematic.
start fighting over females.
problematic.
But when you have a bunch of willing dudes together, that shit's going to get fucking wild.
Sure, but it's
Okay,
like I'm
that's what
not.
we're
I'm
talking
not going to get involved
No,
in
no,
it.
no. Those dudes
Y'all
are all
are
into
having
it.
a good
Yeah.
time.
No, those dudes are all into it.
That's what I mean. Everyone's
Yeah.
consenting. Everybody
yeah.
knows the deal.
Yeah.
It's much nicer.
Yeah.
Everybody knows the deal. It's safer.
Right.
Like I said, I go out to a place where it's a bunch of random ass straight dudes who I don't know, and it's just like all of a sudden I feel like anything could happen, and it's like I
Yeah.
don't know if I want to be in the middle of it or not. That's all. So it's just like you don't feel relaxed.
Right.
Like I said, that's why whenever we go to Mannequins, I never feel entirely relaxed. I feel a lot better when we go to Barbarella because that's like an older crowd. Everybody knows each other.
Goths, gay
It's
dudes.
goths, old. It's old
dudes,
people,
queens,
gay
whatever.
dudes.
Yeah.
Like it, and it's a lot. You know, it's people that have known each other
Those
for
are all
decades.
Those are all seen people.
Everybody
knows-
looks out for everybody
yeah.
else's. Like nobody wanders in, so
Right.
it's like you feel a lot safer.
The problem with a place like Mannequins is that it's kind of a mixed crowd where you have cool club people with normies who have no club culture at all. They don't know how to act in a club. Just like last week, I walk into the bathroom, there's only fucking one John in there. I go to try to shut the door, and two other dudes try to come in with me. And I'm like,
Yeah, he
what the
told me
fuck,
about
what
that
the
later.
fuck
I'm
you
like-
talking about? They said, so what, y'all trying to suck dick or something? What the fuck? There's only one bathroom in here. And then they want to, they're all truck driving motherfuckers, you know what I mean, rednecks. And then they want to get mad that I called them gay. And I says, well, of course you're trying to be gay. You're coming
Why are
into
you
the bathroom
following me into
with
the
a
bathroom?
fucking man. What are you trying to do?
It's
Trying
a
to suck
single
dick or something?
bathroom.
And then they wanted to fight. I pushed them out anyway, and then they got bounced. Okay, but they're just dumb. They don't know how to be in a club.
I don't
If
really
a
know
dude
what they were
walks
thinking.
into the bathroom, don't fucking follow him. There's only room for one.
that should be-
If you go in there, what are you trying? Why are you trying to fight to get into the bathroom with another man?
That was
a
so
fucking very
weird.
serious
That was
question.
so weird.
Weird as fuck. And then they want to fight because I call. Oh, you calling us gays? You got to be gay. You ain't trying to
Why
suck
are you
dick?
following me to the
Let me get
bathroom?
my fucking phone,
It's
man.
one fucking bathroom.
We're gonna record this shit. This
It's
shit's
one
gonna go up
bathroom.
on our fucking.
Honestly,
This
at,
shit's gonna go up on our channel.
Mannequins,
If you what,
at Mannequins, me and Tom just go to the bathroom together.
yeah, we go to the bathroom together.
And I'm just
Jenny,
like,
come on, reach around here, man. Hold this shit. Shake it.
no, I'm just saying you pee and then I'll pee. Like I said, we're married. It's okay. We've seen each other
We got
pee.
another super chat. Who's that?
It's cool. Thank you very much, Jeffy Art. So we just go to the
Jeffy
bathroom
Art?
together.
Okay,
It's fun.
yeah.
Thank you very much, Jeffy Art, for the super chat. I used to work security at a gay club in Wilton Manors.
Yeah.
There are times the back rooms look like something out of Caligula.
Yeah, yeah.
But everyone is consenting. Like I said,
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
They're having fun. They
Yeah.
they chose that shit.
As long as everyone's having a good time.
Yeah.
As long as everyone's on the same page.
Yeah. As
Do
long
what
as-
you want.
as long as
Everyone's
they
an
have
adult.
fun. Yeah.
Everyone knows what's
as long
going
as
on.
they want to be there.
That's awesome. Like I said, it's only when people that are
Right.
not knowing what's going on or anything like that, that's obviously when we have a problem. So, you know. But that's all it is. I can't believe those two guys followed you into the bathroom.
Yeah, they thought. Yeah,
I'm not all that surprised, though. I
well,
mean,
they were
that fucking place.
blasted out of their gourd.
Still.
I'm like, why are you coming into the bathroom?
I've
with
been
me?
really drunk at that place, and I don't
Yeah.
think I've ever followed another person into the bathroom.
I guess they
for
thought there was
Christ's
more
sake.
than one fucking urinal. They wanted to
I've
talk.
never been that
It was
drunk.
them same motherfuckers that were trying to talk to me at the bar.
Oh.
We go up to the bar and he goes, my friend said he's getting married today. And I was like, oh, good. Yeah, you want to talk to these dudes.
Yay, good for you.
Good,
Like,
man. Fucking,
who are you?
Fine.
Go away.
Yeah,
please.
they wanted to talk.
Go away. No one wants to talk to a random ass motherfucker. I don't understand these people that they just go up to random people. It's like, hey, you
Then
look
they
kind
wanna
of cool.
talk.
I'm going to tell you my whole life story. I'd rather not.
Yeah.
I would rather not. Please just go away. Please
Right.
just go away. I don't want to hear your life story.
We're in the club. We know.
I have plenty of friends.
Yeah.
I don't need any more.
They're
It's
here
just,
and fucking we don't know you. Yeah.
I don't know who you are. Now I'm just going to be stuck talking to your stupid ass all night. It's like, no, thank you. No, thank you.
Yeah.
So, but they don't really seem to understand that. I guess they think they're so awesome that
It's
everybody
solipsism.
wants to talk to them. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
that is not the case. I will tell you.
It was them.
Yeah,
They wanted to talk. I didn't want to talk. I
don't-
wanted to
I don't
fucking
blame
take
you.
a leak, man. And go
I
back
have,
out of the
like I
dance
said,
floor.
I have had the same thing happen.
Yeah.
Where I had people come up to me and just like want to talk to me, and it's just like,
Yeah.
look, I don't know who you are. Please
Yeah.
leave me alone.
You're right.
And if you tell them that, they get mad.
Yeah.
I don't get
For y'all who are listening, if, when you go into a club, if people who have been in that scene for a long time, if they don't know you already, then that means they don't need to know you. They know everybody else already. It's going to take time for you.
And I'm not being a snot, I promise.
But it's just the
I'm
way
a
it
nice
is.
person, but
just
it's
the way
like,
it is.
and I'll be polite up to a point.
Right, you be polite.
But you get up in my face and
You
won't
have to
go
get-
away,
you
then
have
I
to
will
get-
punch you.
You have to get known, and that might take a couple years.
I'm not going to punch you right
regular.
away.
If you're not regular,
But after
you're just
about-
not you're a tourist.
But after
You know?
about 5 minutes,
Yeah.
I very
Yeah.
well might, depending on how drunk I am.
Right.
So yeah, so let's get back to the case. We're kind of not. We got a little bit left to go. So we're talking about Jeffrey Dahmer. That's how we got distracted. Do we think Jeffrey Dahmer did this? I don't know. It's possible. I think it's probably unlikely. Incidentally, I did find. Oh my goodness.
Get trapped.
Yeah. I found a book on Amazon. It was on my Kindle Unlimited. So I read some because it was for free. So I read some of it. Now, this book, what was the name of it? It was called Jeffrey Dahmer's Dirty Secret, The Unsolved Murder of Adam Walsh. And the name of the author was Arthur J. Harris. So I read some of this. Now, the premise of this book was that...
It did, yeah.
Yeah, come on.
Wait till it comes back. It's probably back.
No, it'll give me a... There we go. Okay. So, like I said, I don't think that's crazy. Do I think that's what happened? Probably not. But I don't think it's crazy to think that. However, this book, not only was the premise of it that Jeffrey Dahmer was the one responsible for abducting Adam Walsh, but this author purports that Adam Walsh escaped from Jeffrey Dahmer and is still alive and is under a different name. And this author claims that he was in contact with the real Adam Walsh, who is operating under a different name because apparently after he escaped, he got placed with a foster family or something of that nature. So I started reading this book, and when I got to that point where I knew that that's where it was going, I was just kind of like,
I don't know, man. It's like, I don't know if I can continue with this or not. This seems a little far-fetched. I don't think it's far-fetched that Jeffrey Dahmer was the one responsible. I don't think that's the case, but I don't think it's far-fetched to think that, okay? However, saying that Adam Walsh was actually abducted by Jeffrey Dahmer, but then escaped and then went on to be adopted by a foster family and is now operating under a different name, who later came out as the real Adam Walsh, that is a little more far-fetched. And I think that is a little farther than I want to go with this situation. Just gonna say. So the evidence, like I said, I didn't read the whole book because I just got like about a quarter of the way through, and I'm just like, I'm really not sure if I want to like continue with this or not, because it seems a little out there. One of the main things that seemed to be this author's thing that he was kind of hitting on a lot was that he did not believe, obviously, that the head that was found was actually Adam Walsh's head. The thing that he pointed out, he was like, the head that was found, and like I said, I've seen the photos, was the very famous photo of Adam Walsh that was put out on all the missing persons posters and stuff like that, with him in the little baseball cap with the missing front teeth. The head that was found did have one of the front teeth had sprouted some. So it was like kind of halfway down. You know what I mean? So John Walsh did say, well, the reason I chose that photo was because it was the most recent photo of him. Like, it had been taken only a week or two before he disappeared. Now, it came to light later that maybe it was a little bit longer than that. Maybe it was more like 3 or 4 weeks, which, whatever. But the thing about it was that the head that was found reportedly had one tooth that was kind of grown out a little bit more than what Adam Walsh had. So the author of the book is using that to say that the head that they found was not actually Adam Walsh's head, because had he been killed at the time that he was abducted, like, his teeth would have still not erupted. You know what I mean? I get where he's going with that, but like I said, nobody really knows the timeline of what, you know, he was kidnapped on July 27th, right? 1981. The head wasn't found till August 10th. Not a huge amount of time. But the thing about it, though, was that the photo that was taken of Adam Walsh with both of his teeth, where his front teeth hadn't grown in yet. You know, how old was that photo, too? Because, you know, your teeth do start to grow in, like, after a little while. So the fact that the head that they found did have a little bit of a tooth in the front, I don't think that discounts that was actually... And the thing about it was that if that wasn't Adam Walsh's head, whose head was that? There were no other missing persons, kids, like a child of a comparable age, that would have accounted for that. I mean, if it wasn't his head, whose head was it? You know, I'm not saying, yeah 100%, but the thing about it was that the author of the book was claiming that it's like, oh, well, you know, they just made the dental, they made the identification from dental records, and they just made it from this one filling, like in one of the lower molars that was like a really common filling that a lot of kids have, and it's like it wasn't him, and all this other kind of stuff. And then he also kind of said a bunch of stuff about, well, there's no autopsy report filed, and you know, there was all this paperwork that was missing from the file, which may be true, I don't really know, but it's just kind of like, I don't know, it just seemed like a reach a little bit.
Victor's in the chat. What's up, Victor?
Yeah.
We're gonna find out what made him gay today.
We're gonna find out what made him gay.
We got these gay fans. I don't
Victor
understand.
says when random people start conversations, it's because they want to fuck. Well, see, that's why I don't have a lot of patience. I mean, like I said, I'll be nice up to a point. As long as you're nice to my face and you're not being, like, super creepy or anything like that. But it's like, if you come up and try to fucking start a conversation and try to start start telling me about this, that, and the other thing, you know, like I said, the shit that they started with Tom is like, oh, I'm getting married, and I'm still like, look, I don't know you, and I'm, you know, I hate to be a dick, but I don't really care. I don't know you, and I don't care. So it's like, please, I have my own shit going on. I have my own things going on at this point, and it's like, I don't really need your, I don't know. I don't like it.
I don't know. I don't get it because it's like I would never in a million years, and I know this, I'm very introverted, so it's like I never in a million years, as happy as I was about whatever was going on in my life, I would never go to a random fucking person in a bar and tell, hey, it's my birthday. I would never fucking do that. Like, why would you do that? It's weird. I don't know. It just seems weird to me. So, like, when people do that to me, I'm just kind of like, yay. I'm just like backing away slowly because I don't understand why you would go to a random person who you don't even know and tell them, unless you want something from me. And if you want something from me, then you can just go elsewhere because you're not getting anything from this motherfucker. I can tell you that right now. So, yeah. So I don't really know what the deal is. I don't know. But yeah, so this book, it's highly rated, I will say, on Amazon. And I couldn't really get through the whole thing. I mean, it's kind of badly written, I have to say, too. Like, I had a hard time getting through in the first quarter of it. But, I don't know, the premise of it, like, I got where they were going, but, I don't know, it just seemed a little much. It seemed a little... And the fact that he's like, yeah, I found this person on Facebook, and they're like, yeah, I'm coming out, I'm the real Adam Walsh, and I got adopted by a foster family and stuff. And I was just kind of like, well, if you were really that kid, and you knew that your parents were looking for you and all this other kind of stuff, like, why would you not ever tell them? It just, like I said, it seemed very far-fetched to me. I don't know. Could it be true? Sure. A lot of things could. But I don't know. It seemed very far-fetched. So I don't know if I buy it or not. So, yeah. So after we talked about Ottis Toole, which, like I said, I don't know if I believe that. Jeffrey Dahmer. I don't know if I believe that either. There was another suspect in the crime. A dude named Edward James. Now, this guy had actually been abducted for kidnapping a boy in South Florida, and he was later investigated in connection with the Adam Walsh case. Now, the reason he came to police attention was because his cellmate, when he was in jail for this other child abduction, his cellmate, whose name was John Terry, told police that that this guy, Edward James, had bragged about kidnapping Adam and driving up the turnpike with him. And he said what happened was, like, I just snatched this kid, and he said he was going to tell his parents, and he asked me for all this money. So I pulled over, I cut off his head, and I kicked it into the canal. That's what he said. And he also allegedly told his cellmate, oh, and they'll never find, blood in my car or anything like that. He had like a Plymouth Fury or something, which is the same car as Christine, in case you cared. But yeah, so he was just kind of like, yeah, they'll never find me. Now, the police did investigate this lead, and they did discover that there were a couple of sus things about this dude, like that during the time that Adam disappeared, he was actually gone from his, this guy was gone from his apartment complex for like 2 weeks. And they also found out that, like, about a week or two after the head was found, he had one of his seat covers in his car, like, replaced at an upholstery shop. So they did find that out. So that was a little sus. But they did interview him, and they gave him, I don't think it was a polygraph, but I think it was like a stress analysis. It was kind of like a polygraph kind of thing. And apparently he passed it. So, and they didn't really have any evidence to hold him, so they didn't, pursue it any further. And later on, I did find an article from the Miami Herald that said that Edward James said that he never even met this John Terry person that claimed to be his cellmate. And he's like, I don't know what he's talking about. Although, like I said, he did get in prison for like another child abduction. So he's not innocent. But, he's saying that I don't know what happened with that. It's somebody just making shit up. Now, okay. This whole kind of shit. I kind of went, like, I was reading the Wikipedia page and I was reading all these articles. But I didn't really find out about this dude until later on, like when I watched a couple of other documentaries and I read a couple of other deep dives about this case. And I don't want to say anything about this guy because, for all I know, he had nothing to do with it. But I'm just saying this whole situation, whether it has anything to do with the kidnapping and murder or not, the whole situation sounds kind of weird. So here's this guy. And his name is Jimmy Campbell. Well, James Campbell, but they called him Jimmy. Now, he was a friend of the Walsh family. I believe he met John Walsh first
and then he became friends with Reve after they got married. Now, I will note, which I'll bring up in a little bit when we're going to talk about the controversies about John Walsh. John Walsh, I will say, and I'm not shitting on the dude because he's done like a lot of good with, all the advocacy programs and like all the shows and stuff. He's caught a lot of bad guys. He's found a lot of missing children. That is nothing to sneeze at. I will say that he was in his 20s and started dating Reve, who would eventually become his wife, when she was 16, which seemed a little sketchy in light of some shit that he said later on. But we'll get into that a little bit. So he knew this dude, Jimmy Campbell, who was a good friend of his. And Jimmy was also friends with his wife, obviously, because, they got closer together. Now, as time went on, this Jimmy guy got real close with the family and eventually moved in with them. Now, when Reve was pregnant with Adam, Jimmy was living in the house and was kind of like, he had a job, I think, but he was sort of like their, I don't want to say housekeeper, but he like lived with them and like took care of their house in exchange for living there. You know what I mean? He was a little bit younger than John, but not a lot. I think he was like in his mid to late 20s when John was like a few years older. Now, the thing about John Walsh was that he was a very career-oriented dude, and he was just always kind of like, he worked for, I think he was like a vice president of sales or something like that, like at a big hotel chain or whatever. So he was always trying to like, climb up the corporate ladder and like make more money and stuff like that. And Jimmy was kind of like slightly younger, and he was always like living in the house and taking care of the house and being friends with Reve at what at first he called a brother-sister relationship. As we will learn, this was not entirely true. So it was kind of a weird situation. It's kind of a weird situation being a married couple, pregnant with your kid, and then having another grown man living in your house. Like, I don't know. It just seems like a weird situation. So as time went on, so Adam is born. He starts, like I said, he does kind of all the cooking and stuff like that, like around the house. And when Adam is born, he helps them. He becomes the kid's godfather, spends a lot of time with the kid, does all the housework around the house and stuff like that in exchange for like staying there with them. Now, at first, they bring Jimmy in because it turns out that the same morning that Adam was abducted from the Sears store, Reve and Jimmy were supposed to go to the DMV together because I guess he had gotten his driver's license stolen and hers had expired. So they were going to renew their thing together. But he came over and she was like, oh, I have too many other things to do today. We can't do that. But they sat and had tea together and blah, de blah. And then, she's like, I have to go get this lamp, like at Sears or whatever, because she was really head up about that lamp. So and maybe this is nothing, like I said, I don't want to make too much of it, but he was the only person other than Reve and Adam, obviously, that knew that they were going to that Sears that day. Because she said, no, I got to go to Sears and get this lamp because it's finally on sale. I've been wanting this lamp forever. And it's just like, they finally have it and it's half price. I'm going to go get it. So we can't do the DMV. We'll do it some other day. So, you know what I mean? But he had been at the house. And he actually like came to their house later on. So the police at the time, like after Adam disappeared, like before they found him murdered, they were pretty interested in Jimmy and they interviewed him a bunch of times because he was a friend of the family. He knew where Adam was going to be that day. And he later admitted that, he had recently had a falling out with the Walsh family, not so bad that they weren't communicating anymore, but bad enough that he had moved out of their house. Because like I said, he'd been living with them. He moved back in with his parents. Now, at first, the cops were kind of like, he's got to be fucking the wife, right? I mean, they asked about it. And at first he was like, no, it's a, we're like a brother, sister. And the cops were like, yeah, I don't buy that. And so finally, after a while, he's like, yeah, we were having an affair. They had been having an affair for 3 years. Now, I will note that John Walsh allegedly had also been having affairs prior to this. So it wasn't like she was doing something that he wasn't doing, you know what I mean? But the thing about it was that, so the police were very keen to establish an alibi because they were saying to Jimmy, well, you're in love with Reve, John Walsh's wife. And he's like, yeah, they had a thing going on for a long time. Now, apparently Reve didn't see things exactly the same way, but, I'm not really sure how that, like I said, I don't know either of them, so I don't know. But apparently she was just kind of like, hey, I'm staying with John Walsh. We're having another kid, blah-de-blah. But apparently Jimmy was all like, he wanted to have a family with her. Like he was in love with her. And so the cops were trying to insinuate that, well, the only thing in your way was Adam, because that was her and John's kid. And she had evidently, reportedly, told Jimmy, well, we can't, we could be together, but we can't be together until Adam is older. I mean, he's a little kid. He needs a stable family. Like, I can't just run off with you or whatever. So they were trying to establish a motive that maybe Jimmy had a motive to do something to Adam because he wanted her, and she had said, we can't do anything until Adam is older. So they were trying to kind of establish that. So, like I said, it's a weird situation. They gave him a polygraph. The first time they gave him the polygraph, the person that gave him the polygraph was like, well, we don't think he's being deceptive, but the results were inconclusive. Now, a few days later, they gave him another polygraph and he passed. So he was eventually cleared of suspicion, but he was, and I think they don't really bring him up a lot, but he was actually seen as like a major suspect at the time. I don't know if they named him as a suspect because he was a family friend. He was very close. He lived in their house. Like I said, he had only moved out recently because they'd had an argument, like a fight. You know what I mean? And one of the things that they were fighting about was, one, that Reve wanted to stay with John Walsh and have another kid with him. And two, was that Jimmy was kind of, he had a job, but he was a little bit rootless. You know what I mean? He was kind of like a pot smoking, kind of hanging out on the beach. So like I said, he had a job, like he rented out boats and stuff like that, like, along the resorts and everything. But he wasn't like a go-getter type of person like John Walsh was, who was like climbing up the corporate ladder and everything. So I think that Reve saw him as kind of like a little bit of a bum. And I think that was a point of contention. At least that's what I could glean from everything that I read. So the police were very much trying to lean into maybe Jimmy had a motive to do something to Adam, and he knew where Adam was going to be on that particular day, because they did find it very strange that Adam had been randomly kidnapped from apparently in front of a Sears store in the middle of the day. It was like noon or something, or like 12:30, like at a very crowded mall. They thought that was very strange. So they were thinking maybe this is somebody that knows the kid. And they also pointed out too that Adam was a very timid child who likely would not have gone with anybody that looked like fucking Ottis Toole, that's for sure, because he looked like a fucking scumbag.
Look like a fucking camel,
right,
on crack.
But it's like, but he very well may have gone with somebody that he knew very well, and Jimmy was his godfather. Like, Jimmy read him stories and like cooked for him and, hung out with him all the time. So it's like he wouldn't have thought that was strange. Like I said, I'm not, accusing him of anything. He was cleared of things. He might be dead now. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm just saying that the cops did lean really hard into him back in those days before they decided that Ottis Toole was the killer. It was just a weird situation all around that he was living in their house. You know what I mean? And the fact that John Walsh was at work all the time, and that him and, and that Jimmy and his wife started fucking. And it went on for like 3 years, which, I don't know, it seemed a little strange. But yeah, like I said, reportedly, allegedly, John Walsh was fucking around too. So I don't really know. And I think that's kind of the reason that Jimmy said, oh, well, that's why John Walsh never said anything about me and her fucking, because he was fucking around too. So that's kind of why, but I don't know. I don't know if any of that's true, but I'm just saying that's kind of what I read. And the cops were like wondering about that too, because they thought that he might have had a motive for getting Adam out of the way. But as I said, he passed a polygraph, so they kind of abandoned that. But that was kind of a big thing at the time before they focused in on Ottis Toole. Now, I will say that in December of 2008, the Hollywood police basically said, we're announcing, and this was kind of a big deal in the media at the time, we're announcing that the case of Adam Walsh is closed. It's been solved. Ottis Toole was the killer, and we are satisfied that that's who it was, so that's all she wrote. And they got rid of the remaining evidence, including the head, and there was that. And as I said, John Walsh, I don't know about Reve, but John Walsh seems to be convinced that Ottis Toole was the killer. I'm not so sure.
Nah, he's just trying to wrap it up.
Yeah, I kind of feel like maybe that's... And look, I get it. I get that something like that... Yeah, something like that happens to your kid, and you just want a definitive answer. This is who did it. They're dead now. It's over. I understand that. I do. Do I think Ottis Toole did it? No. I don't think he did it.
It's more likely that Dahmer did it, and I don't think Dahmer did it.
Honestly, I'm kind of thinking, because like I said, I was reading a lot of stuff about this Jimmy Campbell person that was like a friend of their family. I was like, I can see why police were focusing on him so much, because that's super sus. And like I said, 99.99% of the time, when a child is abducted and murdered like this, it's usually somebody they know.
Yeah.
So I was kind of leaning, I was like, I don't want to accuse anybody. So I was like, well, he had more of a motive at least. Honestly, if somebody put a gun to my head and said I had to say, I think this was somebody that they don't even know who it was. I think it's somebody they never caught.
Yeah, it was whoever it was somebody who's local. Ottis wasn't local. Yeah,
he was from Jacksonville.
Yeah,
That's like 4.5 hours away.
Yeah, he wasn't local.
It's still Florida, but Florida's big.
Yeah.
That's like a long way away.
Florida's this fucking size of a large European country. And
it's hilarious because I watched a lot of stuff about like documentaries, like YouTubers that made stuff about it.
Yeah.
And they, weren't from Florida. Yeah. So a lot of them had to research because they were thinking, oh, well, Ottis Toole was in Florida and the crime happened in Florida.
A long way away.
And then they like looked it up and they're like, oh, that's like 350 miles away. Yeah. It's like really far. Jacksonville is way up by Alabama.
Yeah.
It's way up by or Georgia or whatever.
And the Florida Panhandle and Miami have nothing to do with one another.
It's super far.
Florida Panhandle is more like Mississippi, Alabama. It's like that. The Panhandle, the Panhandle is fucking the South. All right, deep South. Miami, shit. That's fucking. That may as well be fucking. What's the word I'm thinking of? Fucking those islands and shit. The Caribbean.
Yeah.
That's the Caribbean. It's very different.
Look, I was born in Florida.
Yeah.
I spent almost my entire life in Florida.
Yeah.
In Central Florida. I have only been to Miami 3 times in my entire life. Right. I've never even been to like Key West.
Yeah.
And it's in the same state, but it's far. That's like a 4 or 5 hour drive. It's a long way away.
Florida's the place where 2 empires met. The British Empire and the fucking Spanish Empire. And it was originally the Spanish Empire got purchased by the United States during the time of what was his name? Jackson. During the time of Andrew Jackson. They purchased Florida. And Florida was already kind of like a mixed state of Hispanic people and Anglo people from the very, very beginning. And Indians. There's a shit ton of Indians here. The Seminoles.
That too.
So it was just, this is always like...
This is a weird place.
This is a state that was like, most of the United States was like something out of Star Wars.
It's a weird place.
It was never uniform. It was a mixture of people. Yeah.
Yeah, Victor said I've been to Disney and Cocoa Beach.
Yeah.
Never been to Miami, though. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've also been to Disney several times, and I've also been to Cocoa Beach, too. But like I said, Cocoa Beach, that's about 40, 50 miles south of where I grew up. So, but Miami was far. I've only been in Miami.
It's almost like another country.
Yeah, I've only been to Miami. It's a long drive.
Miami has a very Central American feel to it, especially back in the past. It's a cool place, though.
It
Very
is cool. I like it
Very
there.
cool.
I like it there.
Yeah,
But
we can, anybody could live there and have a good time.
it's a
If
yeah.
you got money,
Well, yeah. I mean,
more money you have, the better, more fun you're gonna have there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I always kind of liked Miami.
yeah.
Bryce says the Seminoles were never conquered. Amazing history and culture.
Yes.
We should probably do a show
Yeah,
about them
yeah.
one of these days.
The Seminoles either became Americans or they fucking went out and ended up living next to the Crow. And they didn't want to live next to the Crow. They fucking hated it when they got relocated. But most Seminoles stayed. Ran into a Seminole at the Oasis, the biker bar. Yeah, they're still here, but they stayed here.
Yeah. It is like kind of fast. I
Yeah.
actually wouldn't mind doing a show about them
Yeah.
because it is a
There
really
were,
interesting
three
history.
Seminole wars, if I remember correctly.
Yes, I think, as far as I know. Yeah, it's a whole like Florida history is like actually really
Yeah.
fascinating. Jeff Yard said I currently work in Miami. It's like a whole other world. Super expensive now. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like a lot of big cities are super expensive.
It's kind of like a fucking it's Central America in a way in the United States. A high end, so it's the New York of Central America, Miami.
Kind of, yeah, if
Yeah.
you want to put it like that.
Yeah.
So yeah. So officially, like I said, the Adam Walsh case is closed and was closed in 2008 because they were satisfied that Ottis Toole was the killer, which like I said, fair enough. I'm not convinced, but okay. So as I said, in 1983, they made that TV movie with Jo Beth Williams in it. That was just called Adam. And I think everybody in my fucking school saw that. Like the next day at elementary school, everybody was talking about it. It was like a big fucking thing. And a bunch of people watched it. They showed it again the following year and the year after that. And I think it was the first TV movie that actually showed a bunch of different missing kids like at the end and had like a phone number about it. And because of those broadcasts, out of the 55 missing kids that they showed on the movie broadcast, they found 15 of those kids, I think. 13 of them? 15 of them. 13 of them. Now, as I mentioned, this case had a huge cultural impact. Prior to this, they didn't have any national database of child predators. They didn't have any protocols in place for missing children. They didn't have anything like that, like you would have nowadays. This case, and the Walshes in particular, like the way they pushed for it, really changed a lot of the laws and changed a lot of the culture. So 1984, only 3 years later, only a year after the movie came out, the Congress passed the Missing Children's Assistance Act, and that directly led to the formation of the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, which, like I said, obviously is still very active today. And I mentioned earlier the Code Adam program, which they still have in big box stores and shit like that, where, somebody reports that their kid wandered off, they lock down the whole store so they can find the kid before anything bad happens. You also had the Adam Walsh Child Protection and Safety Act that was passed in 2006, signed into law by George W. Bush, and it was redone in 2016, like Obama signed it. For additional funding and stuff. And that was just kind of funded a national database of convicted child molesters, harsher penalties for sexual offenses, violent offenses against children. So it was that kind of thing. So that, directly led to that. Now, I will say, and I brought this up earlier, because I kind of wanted to talk about this a little bit before we wrap up. Because a lot of people have shit on John Walsh for overestimating the incidents of stranger abduction and murder happening, like just to further his own agenda. Which,
I mean, okay. So I guess he did to an extent, because he did very, famously, he made some speeches in front of Congress and stuff like that where he did, very demonstrably overinflate the numbers of children that were kidnapped by strangers and murdered by strangers, like by quite a significant amount. I get why he did it. He was trying to appeal to everyone's emotions, and it worked. So you got to give him that. But I get the criticisms too, because he did. I kind of feel like after this case happened, this was kind of the catalyst for the whole 80s stranger danger, maybe even fed into the satanic panic thing a little bit, although that had started a little bit earlier. But it kind of ran in tandem, I feel like. Because after this happened, everybody was like flipping out. It's like, you can't let your kids outside anymore and everything like that. And I think that kind of led to, nowadays, people are a lot more aware of, back in the old days, man, like I said, even back in the 70s and 80s, we just ran loose, man. Like, our parents didn't know where we were. Like, especially in the summertime, like, they'd just be like, yeah, go outside and play. And you'd be gone all fucking day. Like, they'd just be like, you'd come back when it got dark, and they'd be like, oh, there you are. They didn't know where you were all day. And it's like, even before that, like in decades before that, I was looking at like some kind of comments or something like that. They said back in the 40s, 50s and stuff like that, like, women would go shopping, like grocery shopping or whatever. They would leave their babies in the stroller, like outside the store, in the street. They just leave. Hey, all right, I'm just gonna go in and like shop for fucking an hour and just leave the baby out in the street. Most of the time, the baby would be fine. But I'm just saying that people weren't really aware of the prevalence of predators. But as I said, I think people got an overinflated sense of how many predators there were. I'm not saying that you should just like let your kids run around loose, obviously, because there are bad people out there. But there aren't as many bad people out there as people perceive, maybe. Yeah. And I think a lot of people criticize John Walsh for going in front, because he would say stuff like it's like 50,000 children are beheaded and all this stuff. Like, obviously that's not true. And the FBI even said, like, look, 99% of children that are abducted, it's a family member or somebody they know. It's not a stranger. Just like I said, most murders are committed by people that the victim knows, obviously.
I believe what the old FBI, this is about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, what they said, I believe is true. They said, if you're a foreigner, there are 50 states inside the United States. Each one's kind of like an independent country. Right. The FBI believes that on average, out of each state, there are about 2 serial killers operating. That's not very many.
I mean, you don't want to run across one.
Yeah.
Watch your ass, but it's unlikely that you'll run across.
It's about 2 per state. That's the average.
Just watch your shit.
Right.
But don't worry too much about it.
Yeah.
I kind of think that too. But like I said, I read and write about true crime all the time, so I'm kind of primed to be more suspicious, but you can't be so suspicious that you are like never want to go outside your house or anything like that.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll come in and get you if they really want to get you, to be honest. So you can't avoid it. But yeah, so I mean, total stranger abductions, they do happen, obviously. It happened in this case, but they're really, really rare. So they're just saying, like, watch it, but don't worry too much about it because it doesn't happen all that often. And honestly, since about 2000, the numbers of missing children that were ultimately murdered decreased significantly. And they think this is probably because better protocols in place. Everybody has cell phones now. There's cameras everywhere. People are more aware of
I don't
shit
think modern
that's going
society
on.
generates serial killers like
It doesn't
used to.
seem to. It really has seemed to have declined.
Yeah, and I will fucking... I think there are 2 factors. One, they no longer make leaded gasoline. I think that had a lot to do with it.
Yeah, we've talked about that before.
Yeah.
I think that was a
The
significant
effect
factor.
of lead on the human mind is fucking pretty negative. Makes you very violent and evil. That's what was wrong with a lot of the Romans, the ancient Romans. They were drinking water out of lead pipes.
They had all
Especially
that.
the rich people. because they had lead pipe.
Sure.
Another thing is, I think the advent of porn, I think, has alleviated a lot of the pressure that certain psychopathic guys undergo. In other words, sex isn't as mysterious to them.
And even like weird, if you have like a weird, I don't want to say weird, but if you have like an unusual like proclivity or an unusual fetish, like it doesn't seem unusual anymore because you can find like a whole community of people that will also indulge in that with you. So it's like you're not feeling like, oh, you're the only person in the world that feels like this. You know what I mean? So, and I think that goes a long way toward like being a pressure valve.
What Jen is saying, what I agree is that had the internet existed, guys like Jeffrey Dahmer probably wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, and I've said that before. They'd been able to
talk to other dudes who were like them, and it would have alleviated itself. Isolation is a very fucking dangerous
because you feel like you have all these weird thoughts, and you think you're the only one that has them.
Right. So
and so you have to.
And in the old days, they couldn't put it into context. They're like, oh well, I have a certain fetish, and there are other guys that have this fetish. And we're gonna make it. We can fucking, we're talking to each other, and we're jerking off to our porn, and fucking.
They're making their own porn.
We're doing our.
Which, like I said, I think that's much healthier, to be honest, because
there has to be a sexual outlet to vent.
Right.
This male energy.
Like, look, people have weird, and look, women have weird ass fucking fantasies too. Yeah. But it's just kind of like if there's some way to. Indulge in that in a safe way, whether it's writing about it or if you're making animation of it or just communicating with other people that have that, then that's much better than back in the old days when you had this weird fetish and you thought you were the only person and you're like, well, I have to go out and do it in real life.
Well, you might go crazy.
Right.
Yeah. With women more about reading things. They like to read things. It's more.
Yeah,
mental.
I like written erotica.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
Erotica.
It's a lot hotter to me than. I don't mind visual porn too, but it's just kind of like I like written erotica a lot.
Men, it's more visual.
Yeah, I like written erotica because you can imagine it. You can imagine whatever you want. You're getting like a suggestion, but you can picture whatever scenario you want to picture.
I can read all kinds of hot shit in fucking books, and it's not the same as seeing it. It's just the way men are built.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I get it too. It's like, some, because I've seen some, you've seen it. It's like I've seen some visual porn that is like, ooh, I like that or whatever. But in general, like I usually like stuff that's.
All kinds of comments are coming about who made who gay and shit like that. Like,
what, did I miss some shit about who
Victor's
made?
saying that porn made him gay.
Online porn made me gay. Online porn makes everybody gay.
Everything made you gay, bro.
Online porn makes everybody
gay. Gay as shit.
But it's crazy to think that it's just honestly, like I said, I think people complain about like I don't know who complains, but maybe a lot of people complain about all the shit that's out there nowadays, but I think that's a lot healthier. I think it's a lot healthier because you have to think back in the 60s, 70s, you had somebody that was growing up that maybe was just something as garden variety as just a gay dude that liked BDSM. Like, like I said, very garden variety. That's not that unusual.
Yeah.
But he didn't, he grew up in some small podunk town somewhere. He didn't know anybody else that was into that kind of shit. He couldn't talk to anybody about it. It wasn't socially acceptable. And it's like, you'd kind of go nuts.
Bryce said that I said what he was thinking. That online porn has made a lot of... What did he say? You read it. Good, read it.
Where is it?
It's one of the orange...
I think online porn has changed things a lot, too. People can get off more easily. Yeah. Because you can find... anything.
Yeah, and I think guys, and I think he said earlier on that guys like these weird ass freaks probably just would have been an average online perv, really.
Right.
Because he'd have been blowing off steam.
Right.
He wouldn't have to act on it.
Right.
He would have been able to understand more what he was about.
Yeah, because he would understand like other people like that too.
Yeah. Right.
Like other people made this porn.
Right.
So other people are also into that. So I'm not alone. I'm not isolated. Like you can talk to other people that are into that. You can trade pictures or whatever.
There's kind of like right now, I listen to YouTube a lot. There's a lot of like anti-porn sentiment, anti-OnlyFans sentiment going on. And guys that I would say kind of lean right. I lean right, but I think they're wrong about that. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Me and Jen have made porn together.
I have no problem with
And
porn. As long as everyone's consenting and overage, I
Right.
have absolutely no problem with porn at all.
And
I would consider myself a feminist. I don't have a problem with porn at all.
Sexual fucking uptightedness is dangerous.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Right. What's been going on lately is fucking these dudes are fucking upset that you have these girls doing OnlyFans and making money. Some of them don't even make that much money. And then they fucking bend that shit out of proportion. You got girls who only make $300 a month on the average in fucking
because most people on OnlyFans don't make that much money.
Right.
It's only like the top tier.
Yeah, that make a shit ton.
A livable wage. Right. Most of those girls are just doing it for like side cash.
And then these guys are going like, well, they're selling their souls for $300. No, they're not. All right, fucking.
Well, and they don't know those girls either, so
right.
It's like, who are you to fucking judge? She's just making money, man.
On average, it's a single mom.
Yeah.
Who has a regular job, who's trying to supplement.
Yeah, she's trying to make
so
some
she
extra
can make
cash,
rent.
Man. Sure. Why would
she's
you?
Not married.
Right.
You know.
Why would you judge?
And she's working on her own, from her own fucking apartment.
Yeah, that's all she's doing.
And then, so it's not like she's cutting herself out of the mating pool, because why wouldn't you date her? So
and
what? Other dudes have seen her. Who gives a shit?
The things about dudes like that, you don't want to date them anyway.
Yeah, like,
because it's like, one, you don't know her.
Right.
So why even you have no right to judge her in the first place.
Right.
She's just trying to make money like everybody else.
Yeah. She's got her side hustle going.
Right. And it's like I said, she's just in her own fucking room.
Right.
You know, playing with, toys or whatever and like
selling images,
making some money. Man, if she can make some money like that, good for her.
And the $300,
I have no problem with that at all.
$300 a month may not mean shit to you, but to her,
that's a lot of money.
She's able to make rent.
Sure.
Right. Yeah.
She's got some bills to pay, man.
It's just a different
if that's how she does it, I don't understand like people that are judgmental.
But I totally understand if you're a guy who meets some chick and you find out she's an escort and you don't want to date her. No, yeah, of course.
Well, that's different.
That's very different.
Like I said, okay.
These guys don't have the perspective. You know
now,
what I mean?
I don't judge escorts either.
Yeah.
Like I said, girls gotta make money. People gotta make money, man. You gotta eat. You gotta pay your rent. Everybody got to. If that's what you want to do to make money, I am totally fine with that.
I wouldn't date an escort though.
But I get it.
Yeah, I wouldn't date it.
I get it.
No.
Because being, just doing shit online, like I'm just jerking off and people are paying me, like, you know what I mean?
To watch.
Just paying to watch you.
Yeah.
That's slightly different than actually going and fucking random dudes.
Yeah.
And like I said, I don't judge girls for going fucking random dudes either. But I'm just saying
that's the game they wanted to play.
Right.
Yeah.
If you chose to do that, then more power to you.
Well,
but I also understand why someone would not want to date someone like that.
Yeah, right.
I get that.
Right.
But I'm not judging them either.
And then by the same token, studio porn star chick. Yeah. Okay. They gotta fuck a lot of dudes. And a lot of studio porn chicks are also escorting. So I can understand why you wouldn't want to date them. But
yeah, like I said, I get it.
Working at her apartment, OnlyFans? What the fuck? What's your problem, dude?
All they're doing, they're just like sitting there with a vibrator, man.
Yeah, I came up dating strippers. I liked fucking strippers. I thought they were, and I thought they were good girls.
Most strippers are, honestly. They're just, like I said, they're just trying to make some money.
They just wanted a normal situation. They wanted to be treated normal. And they wanted a normal situation.
Look, we have been to strip clubs.
They're making money off sips.
We have been to strip clubs.
Yeah,
and they love couples.
Love Jen.
They love girls when they show up. Well, I get it.
Yeah.
All they want is somebody to talk to, man.
Mm-hmm.
Man,
they're
we were
sick
there
of talking to these fucking thirsty fucking.
Right. They just want to talk to somebody that's normal.
Dudes. Yeah.
That doesn't want anything from them.
Right, yeah.
Because everybody wants something from them.
Yeah.
So it's nice to talk to, because I didn't want anything. I was just like, hey, it's a pretty girl. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I'm just like talking to her because she's like a normal person.
Yeah.
So that's very refreshing to them, and I get that. But like I said, I would never judge anyone wanting to make money like that. If they're forced into it, that's a different situation. But if you are like, well, I need some money and I'm just going to do that, I would never fucking judge anybody for making money like that.
I've always been open on the show. I have a history with ladies of the evening back when I was in Korea in a military type situation. It's a very different situation that they were in and I was in. In some ways, it's very similar. But these guys that are very fucking normie street dudes upset by something as small as some chick selling photos of herself, kind of weird to me. You know what I mean?
The thing about that is
she's
that
trying to make rent,
right?
And she looks good. She's making $300, $400, $500 a month extra. Well, if you're so much of a fucking man up, and fucking start dating her and fucking
take care of her then,
the money,
so she doesn't have to do that anymore.
Well, right,
see,
yeah. Because every woman that I ever met that was in that industry didn't quite choose that. That's just what was presented. There wasn't many other options.
Yeah, they're like, well, this is
what I got to do.
I'm all right with this, and it's like I said, it's not what you would choose. You don't grow up as a kid and be like, I'm gonna grow up and do that.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
But it's like sometimes that's the option open to you, and you're just like, all right, well, I got to do this, whether you like it or not. It's not great, but the thing about dudes like that, though, like this is what I don't understand. Dudes judge chicks like that. One, they don't know those chicks. Right. So what right do you have? You don't have any right to say, oh, well, she shouldn't do that. It's like, who the fuck are you? You're not related. Even if you were related to her.
Yeah.
Like, why? She's an adult.
Right.
You can't tell her what to do, like, to make money. I don't understand. So it's this entitlement that I don't like. This entitlement. It's like, well, I think she's hot, so therefore she should not do that. Right. And I'm just like, but you don't know her.
Yeah, and where were you?
Even if you did know her, you don't have any right to tell her that she can or can't do that. She's a grown-up.
Well,
so
yeah. Before we end the show, I was gonna remember that I want to remind everybody that as far as American tradition goes, traditionally there was a right to bliss, which meant that you had the right to get high. It wasn't up until recently that ATF and fucking these drug enforcement facilities appeared and told you that you couldn't get high. Most people got high all the way up until the early 1900s.
They were higher than we would ever hope to be.
They took all kinds of pills and they did all kinds of drugs. So
I don't even know how they lived as long as they did, to be honest.
Yeah, we had to remember that your body is your body. You can do what you want to do. It's your right. The government shouldn't have a right to tell you what you can do with your body. And then that also came into sex work with sex workers. Some girls were fucking kind of forced into that.
Yeah, which obviously that's shitty, that's and that wrong. Should not be. No one should be forced into anything of that nature.
Right, but people's bodies belong to them. If they want to fucking sell it and negotiate and fucking entertain.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Then that's fine, as long as it's not promoted in a way to where it's kind of unrealistic. Like I can foresee there might be a problem with corporations got involved in that. You really wouldn't want that. You would want something where it's like, I don't want to say mom and pop, but fucking where it's small personal stuff like
where people are controlling their own.
Yeah, right. You don't want
which, like I said, technology nowadays has made that a lot more feasible, which is nice. You can control your own who you want to interact with, what you want to do. Like you can control your own shit. So, which is a lot better than it used to be.
So you have an imminent domain over your body. Doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah, if you want to do that, like I said, I don't think any less of people that do that. It's like if you wanted, I wouldn't do that because it's not really my thing. But if you want to do that, then holy shit.
For some people,
good
that's
for
their
you.
best option.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, if that's how you want to make money, and it's just kind of like, I don't have a problem with that at all. And I wouldn't think any less of anybody that wanted to do that either. Right. Like I said, I wouldn't do it, but I'm a different person. You know what I mean?
By the same token, if you're a guy, you don't have to marry her.
That's what I mean. It's like also
they're getting mad, like she's taken out of the gene pool or something. Like, well,
that's another thing that I don't understand. Like, why are you mad?
Yeah, right. Like she belongs to you.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's entitlement.
Yeah.
Dudes have entitlement issues.
Yeah. Well, not all dudes.
And I think that's it's a product of how they're raised.
Yeah.
They seem like they have a weird perception where they think they're entitled to Like, if I think she's hot, then I'm entitled to her. And it's very common. Like, you don't really have that, but a lot of dudes do have that. And it kind of blows my mind because I've never thought like that ever. Yeah. But a lot of dudes do have that. So the fact that they just have this random woman that they don't even know in real life.
Yeah.
And they think that they have some kind of say.
Yeah.
Over what she can do with herself.
All right.
I don't know.
Let's go ahead.
Well, I wasn't done, but okay.
We're not done. Okay.
But you know, I
I'm
have
just left
just a little bit, just a little bit. I wanted to bring this up because I wanted to get your thoughts on this.
All right.
So John Walsh.
Yeah.
You know, obviously he went on to do America's Most Wanted.
Yeah.
And several other shows, very, very famous. And Danny, and as well as a lot of other people, have kind of criticized him for, you know, capitalizing, perhaps, on the death of his son. Which I don't really want to go that far, like I said, because I was alive when this happened. And I remember him being on the news, and he was just, like you said, he was just... Beside himself. I mean, he was just not... I can't imagine, like I said, what that would be like.
I didn't see it as him profiting on it. I saw it more as activism.
Well, yeah, just a few days after Adam's funeral, they're like, we're going to start this foundation so nothing like this ever happens to anybody ever again. So it's like... And they did a lot of good. They started the whole, like, missing persons. The whole missing children shit that we have nowadays is largely because of this case.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to shit on him because of that. One thing that he did say, though, that caused some controversy was that, and he said this jokingly. I thought you would think this was funny, so I thought I would bring it up. One of the things that he said was that he thought that that they should put exploding chips up the butts of sex offenders so that if they went outside a certain radius, then their ass would blow up.
That's funny.
And then, like, so a lot of people and a lot of people pointed out, they're like, look, you got with your wife when you were in your 20s and she was 16.
Yeah.
I was like, and you were living in New York State at the time where the age of consent was 17. So by your own standard, you would have had your ass blown up. So how do you feel about that? So there was that whole thing.
He was a man of his time. A lot of that was going on back in those days.
That's what I mean. So it's like, it's not great. I'm not saying that, but it's just kind of like, I'm not going to shit on too hard.
Serious about that back then.
They weren't, but I get it. But he did say, like, exploding asses. That was like a big thing. You know what I mean? Another thing that he said, and it's like, I don't know why he got shit about this, like back in the old days, because he said that, well, people should never hire a male babysitter. And people were like, oh, well, you're being sexist.
Yeah, I was a male babysitter when I was in high school every now and then.
But, I mean...
breaking boys' Tonka trucks and shit.
But I get what he's saying, though. It's like, look, if I had a kid, I would probably never in a million years hire a male babysitter, unless I knew them really well. Like, I know, like, a lot of dudes that I would trust with my kids. But just a random dude, no fucking way. No fucking way. Yeah. But and that's just statistical. And that's kind of what he brought up, too.
Back in those days, it was always the neighbors. It was always the kid that lived across the street from you.
Yeah. That's what I mean. If I knew them, like, because, like I said, I know a lot of dudes that if I had kids, which I don't, but it's like, you know, they would be fine to babysit my kids. I wouldn't even worry about it. But a random dude, no. If you're going to go with a random person, I would always choose a woman. Like, I get that.
By a bunch of little fucking 15, 16-year-old girls. I don't know how, maybe that wasn't safe. I don't know. Because fucking all they did was fucking cuddle and...
They didn't do anything bad to you, did they?
Oh, hell no. I loved it.
Yeah, they didn't do anything bad to you.
Yeah, I loved it. Fucking,
They didn't do anything bad to you.
Kimmy and all her old
You
friends.
still talk about Kimmy.
I fucking love Kimmy,
So that must have been a whole thing.
That
but
was my first girlfriend. Until she left me for a boy that had a car.
And you were what, like 8?
10.
God damn it.
Damn, he's got a car.
I wish I was 6 years older so I could drive.
Yeah.
So I could, I mean, I get it.
Yeah. She looked just like fucking Princess Leia.
Yeah, you said.
Yeah, I showed you a picture.
Like I said, he still.
I showed her a picture of Kimmy. I got a picture of Kimmy right here.
He still talks about all of these girls.
Yeah. Kimmy was my first girlfriend.
I never talk about like dudes or anything. But he just, for some reason, he's always like
I showed a picture of Kimmy on the show because it makes a good show.
I don't know why he
showed
just
a picture of Kimmy on the show. Remember
that?
Fucking she for Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah, she came over for Christmas. She was just lived 2 houses over. out in California.
Bryce said I would never let a guy babysit my kids.
Yeah.
Like I said, I wouldn't either if it wasn't someone I knew. Like I said, I know a lot of dudes that I wouldn't have a problem with it. But if it was just a random dude, no fucking way.
Yeah.
No fucking way. And like I said, I'm not being... And I kind of feel like John Walsh, like, I don't know about the exploding anus thing. But that's a little extreme. I get it. I get why he said that. And for some people, I probably would advocate that. But I think he got some shit for saying that about, oh, you should never hire a male babysitter, like he was being sexist or something. But I kind of agree with him on that. Because, well, just from a statistical point of view, like I said, women do horrible shit too. You know, I'm not saying that. Obviously, we've done shows about it. But from a statistical point of view, yeah, it's going to be more likely. If someone's going to molest your kid, it's going to be a dude. So, you know, probably, yeah, it's probably not. So I don't think he should have got shit for that, because that's probably true. But yeah, so, like I said, it's just kind of like, yeah, he overestimated how many children got abducted and murdered by strangers to put forward his agenda. Can't say I blame him for it, but a lot of people did call him out on it. He like way overestimated how many people get abducted by strangers. It's really not that many. Honestly, as far as I know, I think the latest statistics I looked at was maybe 200 kids in the whole country that were abducted by strangers. Like, they were like 99% of the time, if a kid is abducted, it's a family member or a friend or like somebody they know. It's not just a random stranger. That's very rare. Like I said, it does happen and it's horrible. It happened in this case, but it's very unusual. The fact that people are still talking about this case is emblematic of like how unusual it is. It just doesn't happen all that often. So I don't know. In a lot of ways, we're still living in that world. Is it because of this case that we don't see as much of this nowadays because people are a lot more careful and they're a lot more aware of it? We could say that, but I don't know. Are we too careful now? I don't know. What's the trade-off? It's kind of like a hard question to... When it's your kid, you don't really want to risk it. I get it.
Just watch your kids.
Yeah, like I said, you can't be too overprotective. You have to let them live their own life and be independent up to a point. But you can't just like leave them you can't leave a baby in a fucking thing outside of a grocery store for an hour either, like they used to do back in the old days. They didn't even think about it.
They do that shit in Norway.
They didn't even think about it. Well, yeah, but the crime rate is like a lot lower back then. It's like nobody does shit in Norway, so they're not worried about it. So I get it, but you know what I mean. Here you can't. I would never do that in a million years, but I get it. So yeah, all right. So we're gonna wrap the show up, I guess, because Tom's getting antsy.
You can tell.
I know. I can always tell, even if I'm not even looking at you.
Yeah,
I can tell your whole vibe in the background. I feel your antsiness like in the background. I just feel what's going on, and the way you talk and shit like that.
Go ahead and shut it down.
All right, so we're gonna shut it down. Hopefully you guys have a good day tomorrow. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the show this evening, even though it was, like I said, a horrible, grim topic. But you know, we will be back on Friday night for the Sidetracks show, which is always fun. So hopefully you guys can join us for that. And I guess, are we going to eat some? Is there any chicken left?
There's some, yeah.
Okay, we might eat some fried chicken. We bought some fried chicken from Publix earlier. I'm going to eat that shit later. All right, so hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. We will see you guys again on Friday night for Sidetracks. Good night.